Thank God it's Monday. How come no one ever says that? But Monday is here again. It's a fresh new week. And we appreciate you tuning in to the most informative, educative, and analytical breakfast show here in Ghana on DSTV and across all digital platforms. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I do this with Benjamin Akaku. So this morning, what do we have in store for you? Of course, we'll start with the news, the AM news, the first bulletin on this channel. And then Anaya Achapim Jantua, the former Director of Public Affairs at the PURC, will join us to get into the various stories captured in the newspapers. Muftana Bil Abdullah will come your way with AM Sports, and then we get into our big stories. First, we'll start from the northern region, where they're dealing with the increasing growth of non-communicable diseases. What are the triggers? Prevention and management. We will talk to Ghana Health Service on how we are dealing with these growing cases of non-communicable diseases. And then we'll take a look at our Safe Water series, where we'll go to the northern region again, where majority of residents rely on dug wells and dams and any available water they can find because of the scarcity of water. Martina Bugri will tell us more in that regard. And then we will tell you some stories from the education sector, where the West African Examination Council is facing some crisis when it comes to funding. How is this impacting their ability to conduct credible examinations? We have that also on our table. And then what do you want to see in political party manifestos? Today, Lois Sholadeyemi engages some first-time voters who've just turned 18 on Just Turned 18. So you want to stay with us from now to 10 a.m., joining us with your comments and thoughts either via phone or across all social media platforms at Joy News on TV. My name is Sweetie Abochi. Coming up is the AM News. Stay for us. This is the AM News. Details now. Starting with North Tongu Member of Parliament Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is giving indications that the minority in Parliament will in the next few days file for a Parliament inquiry into the sale of state lands and assets, including a green belt belonging to the Department of Parks and Gardens. The lawmaker claims the 10-acre stretch of land at Cantonment in Accra, which Parks and Gardens controlled ever since the colonial era, is now being taken over by private developers who are harassing state officials to vacate the state property. However, expressing his frustration over what he says, what he calls a state capture, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa says his side of the House will demand a public hearing that would demand accountability on state assets.
Documents in my possession and engagements with officials at the Department of Parks and Gardens reveal that the Parks and Gardens land situated in cantonments, land which the colonial authorities allocated since 1952 as a green belt, as a horticultural zone where very rare species of trees and other plants are nurtured. That land has been added to the long list of state assets which are being captured by marauding characters who refuse to listen to the Ghanaian people. This is a government talking about tree planting, green Ghana, and that we need to make sure that the environment is protected. And yet, it is engaged in these unconscionable transactions. We are not going to allow that.
The land you refer to is a 10.8 acre parcel of land. Don't you feel that the developers might have an environmental sustainability plan in place?
We don't care what they have. The Parks and Garden land, all 10.8 acres, must be protected, must be preserved. Even the colonialists who we criticize that they came to rape, to plunder, to steal, and to run away, even they knew that portions of our country ought to be reserved. And what saddens us is that this is happening all over the country. Go to the Upper West Regional Capital of WA. Even efforts by the regional minister to stop those who have invaded Parks and Gardens land and are building fuel filling stations. The regional minister has been served a letter from the Lands Commission that those who are doing that, who have encroached the Parks and Gardens land have legitimate title, and so the regional minister should back off. Can you believe that? Even the regional minister did not know that Parks and Gardens land have been given out. And I am receiving calls from all over. Go and see what's happening in the Western region. Go and see what's happening in the Volta region. This has to stop. There are some state assets that you just don't go near. It's been preserved since 1952. Why should we lose Parks and Gardens? Why should we lose our green belt? Why should we lose our horticultural zone? It's the only one left in the capital. Why should we lose it?
Right. And you say that you're going to call for a parliamentary probe, or is it the case that that will definitely happen? Because in your post on Twitter or X, you indicate that Parliament will, quote, soon launch an inquiry into the ongoing state capture, as you call it.
Yes, we have this. Our side of Parliament has discussed a motion which we will be filing shortly in the next few days, a motion demanding a full-scale parliamentary inquiry into the blatant state capture that is ongoing. We will haul everybody, those who are selling, and then those who are buying, those who are fronting for all kinds of characters, hiding behind the scenes, thinking that they will get away, all of them. And we would demand that it should be a live broadcast, a public hearing, so that all Ghanaians will see what is going on.
The National Security Minister, Kandapa, has called for support with information from the people of Bole to bring to book the perpetrators of the serial killing that has befallen the area. About 20 people have been murdered since 2022, causing panic in Bole and its environs. The minister said when he paid a courtesy call on the Bolewura Jirasafo at his palace in Bole.
Residents of Bole and its environs are currently living in fear following the unresolved murders that has taken place since 2022. Many people in the area believe these killings could be as a result of the illegal mining activities in the area. Speaking at the Bolewura's palace, the National Security Minister Kandapa said the killing was bringing the name of the area into disrepute. He said he had charged the security agencies to bring an end to the killing.
This issue of serial killers, it is becoming too much. And to be frank, it is spoiling the good name of this kingdom. Let us work together with the security agencies, with our chiefs, with our elders, with our youth groups, and stop this very, very difficult problem of serial killings within our community. Don't let us continue to be remembered by the fact that we have serial killers among us.
The Bolewura Jirasafo Kutufeso, on his part, said he has set up a community watchdog to support the security in the fight.
We have in our local way formed community watchdogs that will help the security to fight this canker. They know the inners and corners of the traditional area in the town that can help the security to give them vital information to arrest these people.
At the Bolewura's palace, the National Security Minister said his team was visiting the chief to seek their support in ensuring an incident-free election.
As we approach the elections, we count on the traditional leaders, and especially on you, Your Majesty, to help us to educate our citizens. We must never fight. We must not see ourselves as enemies. And I think they do so well in Parliament. They are the real practicing politicians.
The Bolewura Abdullahi Janapo called on political supporters to live in harmony, citing his children as example of democracy.
When we talk of democracy, I think I'm proud to say that we are also, my family is a beacon of democracy. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources is a powerful small boy in NPP. John Jinapo is a powerful small boy in NDC. And people used to ask me, especially at the national searches, what's wrong with? Please, I think for Kanye is aware. The two of them in the family are the best friends.
At the Yabon Rest Palace, the National Security Minister reiterated his call for support from chiefs to ensure a peaceful election and also to fight terrorism.
Soldiers and the help they're giving to us. This is the time Ghanaians must learn to appreciate and support the work of the security agencies. Let us give the necessary respect to the security personnel. It shouldn't happen that whatever the provocation, you should attack a police officer or a soldier or an immigration officer or an intelligence officer at this point in time. No, it won't help us as a country. The time that we really need them is now. We need them now more than ever.
Let me take you now to the Volta region, where the Volta Regional Education Director, Francis Agbemadi, has called on stakeholders to support the implementation of the proposed new standard-based curriculum. He said the curriculum would contribute to instilling the right knowledge and skill into students, hence preparing them for the 21st century job market. He was speaking at the induction ceremony of Rose Nyawuto as the headmistress of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church, Mauko Girls Senior High School, my alma mater. Here's the report.
The new standard-based curriculum is scheduled to be introduced at the second cycle education level in October 2024. It would replace the objective-based curriculum, which, according to educators, encourages memorization. Addressing the induction ceremony of Rose Nyawuto, the Volta Regional Director of Education, Francis Agbemadi, said the introduction was necessitated by the dynamics of the world.
This progressive curriculum is designed to cultivate a generation of learners adept at academic advancement, readiness for the workforce, and responsible adulthood. Responsible adulthood. We don't want adults who want to enjoy their rights but will not want to accept their responsibilities and obligations. I earnestly call for the support and collaboration of all stakeholders to ensure the successful implementation of this transformative journey.
Madam Nyawuto was appointed to serve as the 8th headmistress of the EPC Mauko Girls Senior High School after serving as the head of the Dabala Senior High School between 2018 and 2023. Madam Nyawuto pledged her commitment to the delivery of excellent academic training for her students.
Academic excellence will remain my top priority, but we must also recognize that our students have diverse interests and talents. As a result, they will continue to offer a wide range of extracurricular activities, clubs, and sports teams to enrich their educational experience. I also place a strong emphasis on character development and social responsibility, as we believe these qualities are essential for our students' future success. Education is not just filling a mind with knowledge, it's about nurturing a child's curiosity, sparking their creativity, and fostering their unique potentials. As we stand on the threshold of a new era, let us remember that our task as educators is not merely to produce good students, but to cultivate well-rounded individuals who can contribute meaningfully to the world. Together, let us strive to create an environment where each student feels valued, appreciated, and inspired to reach their fullest potential.
The EP Church charged Madam Nyawuto to consider the ethics, values, and ethos of the church while leading the administration of the school. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Oh.
Now, the Ochinhene Osajifo Amwetio for Repenning is calling on the state to pay teachers a well-deserved remuneration for their workers. He says the role of the teacher in a comprehensive quality education cannot be overemphasized, adding teachers need to be motivated well to give up their very best, even though they're not doing so well under the circumstances. My colleague Maxo Kudeko has more in the following report.
Addressing a deba of chiefs and people of the Benkum division of Achim-Ebuakwa State at Begro, Osagyefo Amoiti of Repenyin called on the government to act fast on teacher remuneration. He acknowledged that the free senior high school education introduced by the Akufo-Addo government is one of the biggest investments which affords every Ghanaian child a free education to the secondary school level. However, Osagyefo Amoiti of Repenyin underscores the importance of addressing some few challenges hindering the success of the program. Ochihini says teacher motivation and good remuneration for teachers are inextricably linked with quality education.
Mano, obey you, a suku. It's another Yamisona Daye, no free SHS. Also, we here in Subia Quine, so go school. Colena go school. A school is out when Antimuga. As a school no quarter was Shadi. Colana is on your table, on your desk, on your traso. Now on your teacher, it's an idea. So man kwala computers na dani ade nyina wonnya teacher pa akwala de sua kwachi ye nyina kwasi ya ana na grofo chira de don kwala fia eko etema eko nkran ani nkrafo eko pison ani enne se entua teacher fo kayi ya kama teacher fo se won so ye ma incentive no nya ba bi ntra yi no chira de na kwala no hwade efi se who will be banned on Senate? Kayosa will pass over baby. Pass over baby. Now, education point between a man on mine or two points.
Osagyefo Amoiti of Repenyin also called on leaders to serve in humility and respect. According to Ochihini, throughout history, there is no single rich or great leader who died and was buried with his wealth, but the lives that they impact lives on till eternity.
Yeah, far to me, enya hunya. To me, dear, would it to me, I would assume or something you to me. I hope I see you to me. There's power in humility, there's authority in humility. Gabia meka, so Oko Christo mu, now ka Yesu, or far to Robona say, or far Bokiti, or who Nasuya for Nahasi. Yesu. Yes, or bread once a rule, the swear for Nancy. Some of our megas yesterday, but them on your as a guy. So, person, some Emma Wiakasia. Some Obia anywhere. I find it down for each day go. Also, we come if I down any much. Uncle and Obia should do Abako Samu, dear Bonnie Deans and the second. As you ready, Obasumi. Radio Bashadi. Now, there are also one young to try and so won't see who be now me or Salva Mojo for Man Cassette, my place would you.
The Benkum division is the second largest division within the Achim-Ebuakwa state structure, with over 300 towns and villages. Within the Achim-Ebuakwa state hierarchy, the Benkum Hene, otherwise known as the Fantiakwa Hene, is the commander and chief of the left wing of the army, with his permanent resident at Begro, the capital of the division. The Benkum division shares borders with Asante, the Kwau, the Akwamu Krobo, and parts of the Volta region. The principal chiefs in the division are the Odohene of Osenase and Otreso. The rest are chief of Apinaman, the chief of Osino, otherwise known as Mumuedusei, the chief of Suhum, Amanase, Serako, Apedja, among others. Maxwell Kudeka report for Joy News.
In other stories, in a vibrant display of color and culture, the Dansika Fugu Batakari Cultural Festival brought the traditional Fugu fabric to the forefront in Bolgatanga in the Upper East region. The event, which originated in the UK, was brought home this year to promote the fabric and create an international market for it. Correspondent Albert Sori reports.
2 years ago, The Dansika Fugu Batakari Cultural Festival was started in the United Kingdom to promote the traditional Fugu fabric and its garments internationally. This year, the organizers decided to bring the festival to Bolgatanga in a homecoming event. The Fugu fabric, known for its durability and unique designs, has been a staple of Northern Ghana's cultural identity for generations. The festival aimed to not only promote the fabric, but also empower local artisans and craftsmen, providing them with a platform to showcase their skills and designs. Chiefs, queen mothers, and officials from government agencies graced the event, marked by a rich display of colorful garments and intricate designs, showcasing the versatility and beauty of the Fugu fabric. The event also drew a large crowd of fashion enthusiasts and exhibitors who displayed various kinds of the traditional fabric and its products. Helen Adunkolgo is the Chief Executive Officer of Dansika Fugu Batakari Cultural Festival UK Limited, organizers of the event.
The purpose is to promote the market, to increase the potentials for those who have been to the vocational schools and give them hope that it's not like maybe you graduate and you haven't got a job and weaving and all these other vocational skills. So what hope is the community giving them? We're not waiting for politicians to create economic and financial stability for people in this community who are promoting our clothes.
She said her outfit is also creating a platform for local weavers and retailers of the Fugu fabric to market their products internationally.
The first launch was in Luton, then we had the festival in London, Broadwater Farms. So that is there in the UK is to promote the cloth and to expand the trade. I've already been in contact with a lot of hotels and designers who wish to use our traditional cloths, the patterns and so on, to make things like pillowcases, hotel cushions and so on and so forth.
Upper East Regional Director of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Wisdom Ahaji, pledged the authority's support for the Dansika Fugu Batakari Cultural Festival.
It's a great vision. It's a vision to promote the region. Our office is responsible for promoting Upper East region as a destination. And one of the tools we use in promoting the region is culture. So it is dear to our heart. We are solidly behind this team, this vision, and all the endeavors we support very much in a small way. We will continue to advise how to do it and do it best, because culture is our identity.
The Dansika Fugu Batakari Cultural Festival ended with patrons excited and hoping that the organizers would make it a yearly event. For Joy News, Albert Sori, Bolgatanga.
Coming up next is Business Update with Benjamin Akakpo.
Welcome to Business Now. And on our first story, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Echiahene is calling on the Bank of Ghana to enhance its tracking and monitoring of Ghana's foreign remittances. Dr. Echiahene argues that with proper oversight, remittances could generate over $8 billion annually, potentially eliminating the need for an IMF bailout. He made these insights, or shared these insights, on the Beyond the Numbers here on Joy News.
You know, they always use fintech as an excuse. But the way you license fintech, you must also regulate and supervise. You supervise in compliance with the Foreign Exchange Act so that all foreign exchange captured by them, if not 100%, at least certain percentage will come into the banking system to support it. You very well said in Kenya, I have done a work on it. I mean, the latest country that is doing well is not even in Africa. About 98% of remittances are captured through the banking sector. You can go to Bangladesh and you can go to Sri Lanka, which is in the same financial crisis or debt crisis. They are capturing an average of $400 million monthly. And we are capturing, if you multiply 400 million, multiply by 12, you'll be talking close to 5.2 billion. We are just capturing 2 billion, 2.1. And I believe a time has come, either for the parliament to sit back and ask themselves, what law, how did they pass the Payment and Service Act without looking at compliance with foreign exchange aspect? And I believe this should be discussed, dispassionate of politics, and so that we country can benefit. Because, my brother, if we get this 5 billion, do you know we don't need the IMF money? We don't need it. And don't forget, more people have migrated into this jurisdiction. Next year, I'm sure we're going to get about 9 billion. And if these people are going to withhold about $9 billion, and the banks are going to go to, there is nothing to write home about. So I think it is not too late. The Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Ghana, and the Parliament, they should all be involved so that we can be tracing and capturing the foreign exchange which is being held by other institutions.
And to cap off business, now the Chief Executive of Strategic Communications Africa, Esther Koba, is calling for a concerted effort at crafting a unique brand which will ensure a sustainable marketing identity for Ghana. According to the communications expert, Ghana is yet to create a lasting brand which blends the enviable hospitality of its people and the unique culture it has to maximize its tourism potential. She spoke to Joy Business at the launch of the 30th anniversary of Ghana's premier communications and reputation company, Stratcom.
What I think is that the story is no different from anything else that we're doing in relation to branding and communication. Because everybody talks, because everybody writes, we feel that when we say that Ghana is a hospitable country, Ghana is the country of sunshine, everybody will see it and feel it. No, it has to be scientifically put together and creatively delivered. That's how it's being done everywhere. But unfortunately, people think that if people come here and we smile at them, we are nice to them, they will go and tell other people. Yes, they will. But how many people? But if we do it scientifically, package it carefully, and systematically and deliver the message in a sustainable manner, in a manner also that resonates with the people that we are communicating to, we'll see that things will change. I mean, when we say these things, sometimes I feel people think, oh, it's classroom talk and all that. No, it's community talk. Go to our communities. You will see that every clan is carefully put together, branded with a totem, branded with a slogan. Even when you greet, there's something there's a special response. So it has to be systematic. It has to be scientific.
And that's it for business. I'm handing over now to Sweetie Abochi. Sweetie, so quite a bit going to happen on the show. After the news review, non-communicable diseases and more coming up this morning.
And you are in high spirits because you were humming to Defe.
You had to expose me like that.
Yes, I had to. But that's how we're wrapping up for the AM News right here on the AM Show. Stick with us. Coming up next is the news review segment.
Welcome back on the AM Show. Time now for us to get into the news review with the lady decked in some vibrant colors this morning. You're looking flowerful and colorful. But you know, I think people say I'm a master of blending colors. I think you are not too far behind.
I'm not too far behind.
You're not too far behind.
I brought so much color to this.
But in terms of matching colors,
right.
it's an art.
Yeah.
Matching colors and
I think I just
ensuring
have an
that
eye
things.
for, all things bright and beautiful.
Okay. Well, right before we get into the papers, you know how we do it. Thanks to the support of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, we're able to bring you this segment every week a day. And today is not going to be any different. Now, here's what they're offering you if you're a man. Prostate screening for free. I keep telling people, you don't want to fall sick, especially not in this country. You don't want to fall sick. So get yourself checked. Do the regular medical checkups from time to time, and you'll be cool. If you're a woman, they're offering you fertility screening for free. Now, many women do not know that there could be many issues compromising their fertility. Your eggs, for example, as a woman, do you know whether they are deteriorating faster than ordinarily would be normal or natural at your age? Do you know? Do you know your fertility status? Do you know whether maybe when the monthly cycle comes, you're bleeding more or excessively because of fibroids or something of the sort? Don't get caught pants down. Pardon the pun. And that is why I am proffering for you Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Then we head over to Kumasi, Kronoma Abwe here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takra Dianaji State. There's Tema, Community 22, Tichiman Hanswa, and Esiama in Zima. If you'd like to call them, and which I suggest you do, just call them on these two numbers. Are you ready? Ready? Okay. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. In a little bit, we'll be joined by our guest for the news review, but for now, my guest is Sweetie Abochi.
I forgot to add Mary Poppins.
Oh, actually, you're popping like Mary Poppins this morning. But I'll just ask you this: which one or two issues, grabbed your attention over the weekend? The many things that happened. Which one or two of them?
It was my conversation with the director at West African Examination Council,
WAEC,
on this money, and he says they've received a warrant, right, which will allow them to proceed with the examinations, but they'll be operating on a scale of preference. There are some items that they need to buy, but they have to forgo. And I'm asking myself, what does that do to the integrity of the examination, the processes? Would it allow the students to give out their best? In as much as we don't have money, the students are the real focus of this. So and today we will engage them later on in the show. So I'm curious to see how really they're navigating these tricky waters.
He said that, it was under threat initially. What we had published and everything we had known was that if they didn't get funding, probably they couldn't even execute the exam. Now he is saying we can do it. But we have enough to run the examination, but some other contingencies and other things. And sometimes that is where the devil is. It's not just executing the main thing. The little things without which not, the sine qua nons of the whole thing. So let's see how it goes. But you see, some things are happening within this period that I find surprising. I don't remember when some of us were growing up to even contemplate that the BC or something, it wasn't, you knew that this was coming and it would come. So not that the systems were perfect then. I remember my aunt used to work at the West Africa Examinations Council. So behind the German embassy, I would use that route, go to Cancun. So I have a fair idea of some of these things. It's a bit surprising. And I'll just cap it off with this. I don't really mind whose ox is God and who has done what. But I feel the way our education is going, we are retrogressing. Akilakpa Sawyer was saying recently that, Professor Akilakpa Sawyer, speaking to Raymond Akwa, that he has lots of issues with free SHS, for example. I keep saying, on the quantitative bit, amazing. On the qualitative bit, look, I keep interacting with young people, and some of them can't string two sentences together without grammatical concord, mistakes everywhere.
And Benjamin, it's a reflection of the country we live in. I like to make that comparison. Like this WAEC thing, they've just received a warrant. It doesn't mean that they're paying off the debt. It just means that they're cushioning it in a way. The same one, we are not paying our debts, we're just servicing our debts. So
well, that warranty or guarantee, I don't know. But
in the end, it's just really tricky. We need money in this country, and until we get some miraculous amount of money that someone gives us without the need to pay back, I really don't know how our leaders are going to wing it. And it's election year, so.
Well, we pray for the best, that's for sure, because if the one thing you don't want as a country to get compromised is education. Once your education gets compromised, everything else from there is going. Because probably the next generation of leaders you will have will not be very savvy, read between the lines. They are going to be manipulated by, you heard Lord Paul Boateng saying that the West and other countries have fed and they continue to feed, and it's a leadership thing. If they are feeding now, and unfortunately some of our misleaders are Oxbridge trained, Oxford and Cambridge, Ivy League trained. If this is their performance, then imagine when they don't even have that. You shudder to think where we would go as a country. Then you'll be manipulated because, like it or not, on the international political scene, right, in international relations, people use hard power, soft power, and people also manipulate to suit their country. When this recent bust, cocaine, at our ports went through, do you think UK intelligence was just giving us that because they cared so much about Ghana? Yes, there are these relationships, bilateral and all of that. They were doing it because that was the destination of the drugs. So they look at their interest. I was at an event, and I'll just end here so that I don't talk too much. Even in terms of research, a lot of the research that is done, we practically fund about maybe 3% or nothing of research, academic institutions, tertiary institutions. So you know what? When the USAIDs and these other entities are giving research funding to our professors and the rest, they tell you what they want them to do. So maybe you want to do this in the interest of Ghana, but they are not interested in that. They want you to do the other one because that is in their interest. That's where we are.
We are not the target audience of the endeavors of our leaders. Anyway, but let's get into the newspapers now. Starting with the Daily Guide newspaper. In the course of the program, we'll introduce our guest as and when she joins us. On the front page, ESLA launches foundation to empower youth. Man kills son. We'll get into that story and see the details of it. ICC dismisses Mikeleti case against Ghana. 2 NDC MPs caused chaos in Parliament. Kandapa in Bole over military-youth clash. Let's get into the papers now, starting with the story of the International Chamber of Commerce, who's dismissed an international arbitration instituted by Mikeleti Company Limited against the government of Ghana in May 2023, claiming damages of $400,000. The company had also claimed accrued interest at the current Bank of Ghana forex rate plus 3% points starting from February 2009 till date of final payments. The international arbitration was instituted against the backdrop of what the claimants alleged to be a breach of contract relating to the rehabilitation of the Ohene-Jan Sports Stadium in Accra. The ICC tribunal, comprising Sadov Habib, Shadrach Ahin, and Justin Amenuvo, in its partial award, decided it had jurisdiction to hear the matter, but dismissed the claims because the arbitration proceedings were filed outside the limitations Act of Ghana. So this is coming on the back of that April 2016 government contract with Waterville Holdings for the rehabilitation of some sports stadia here in Ghana. So far, the ICC has dismissed the case. Sunyani Market women sue Assembly over World Bank projects. That's an interesting one, so I'll get into it. This is on page 3 of the Daily Guide newspaper. Some market women who trade their wares at the Sunyani Nana Bosoma Market, otherwise known as Abrojom, at Abrojom that is Maize Market, a resisting attempt by the Sunyani Municipal Assembly and the Sunyani Traditional Council to eject them from their present location without compensation. The move, according to Assembly and Traditional Council authorities, is to give way for the construction of a new market complex being funded by the World Bank. The women have therefore sued the authorities at the Sunyani High Court over the decision to move them without compensation after they've expended huge sums of money on their shops. So the case, which was to be heard last Friday, was adjourned to July 16th. And this is to allow the trial judge to study the docket. The women, numbering over 54, are known as Nana Bosuma Market Container Traders Association, represented by Benedicta, Sunoma, Evelyn, and so others, are looking forward to appealing to the authorities, rather, to come to their aid. Benjamin, I don't know what you think about this. I mean, one thing is, if they want to construct a new market complex, it's a step in the right direction. But you don't just move market women who've spent in this recent hike in food prices that we are witnessing. They probably went to buy so much stock, and you're saying that they should move without any compensation or alternative arrangements for them to move their wares somewhere else where they can still ply their trade. Ben?
But is that not our stock in trade? Is that not what we do? Oftentimes people, move here, do this, do that. There are people who, to date, have been moved from certain places. Compensation hasn't been paid them. I think even, I don't know whether it's not the Pukwasi stretch. I think there were issues. I think you went there at a point, and some people were complaining and all of that. It's our stock in trade as a country, which is also why sometimes when legitimately people have to move, because though they have been illegitimate in law, there's something where if you allow someone to be in a certain place for quite a while, they gain some legitimacy, even when it comes to the state. I've seen that happen in some portions of Brazil before. And you just tell people up and leave. I mean, let me leave it there. Nothing in Ghana really makes sense to me, so let's leave it there.
But I mean, whoever these authorities are, these women need your help. I mean, we get that you want to build a new markets complex, but your business must go on. This is their means of livelihood. ESLA launches foundation to empower youth. Man kills son. The Insawan Police Command is holding a 40-year-old Nigerian man identified as Justus, known locally as Oga, for allegedly killing his son and secretly burying him. Wow. The suspect, a hardware seller, lived with his wife, also a Nigerian, and 3 children, including the deceased at Chechrewe, a community near Asoboi along the Accra-Kumasi Highway in the Ayensuano district of the Eastern region. Now, according to the report, the suspect, who is now in police custody, had a history of aggression towards his family, as he frequently beat his wife and children, and his violent behavior went unchecked as the community feared his wrath, and now he's killed his son and secretly buried him. I'm glad he's in police custody. I'll quickly run through some stories here, and then we go to another paper. GCE begins over-the-counter markets trading. Okay, so that's the Ghana Stock Exchange. They've launched the over-the-counter markets trading to give rural banks and small and medium enterprises the platform to raise capital through the trading of securities that are not listed on the bourse. Zenith Bank sponsors overall Best Candidate category at WAEC Distinction Awards, locks up 5-year partnership agreement with WAEC. Those are just some stories in the Daily Guide newspaper. Garmancha leads charge towards cleaner Accra with the homework coming in. There's this cleanup exercise that they're leading to ensure that the city is ready for the festivities. And I denied Davido access to my body, not our daughter. MasterCard Foundation reaffirms commitment to empowering EdTech in Africa. NPP's victory starts from Ashanti region. And SHC hands over housing units to police. That's the last story I'll get into, and then we'll go to the New Finder newspaper. The State Housing Company Limited has handed over 2 housing units to the Ashanti Regional Police Service at the John Ajekum Kufuor Estate at Oyoko Akrofom in the Echimwa in Wambieja North District of the Ashanti region to accommodate personnel. Mr. Kwabena Mpofu-Appiah, the Managing Director of the State Housing Company, at a short but colorful event on Friday, explained that the initiative is geared towards reducing accommodation burden on the police administration. The gesture, further stated, would encourage the police to execute their duties well, having a sound place to lay their heads. Benjamin, what are your thoughts on these short stories that we just got into from. You are my guest this morning, so I need to hear your thoughts.
I mean, the stories speak for themselves, honestly.
Okay.
We can,
on the back page, we can go on. Right.
Yeah, we definitely
Ojo
can.
grateful to Emmy Africa Expo. Gambo set to release new EP. CAF unveils AFCON 2025 dates. Ghana tug of war shines in Zimbabwe. Let's move on to the New Finder newspaper now. On the front page, revival of Agrek underway. Access Bank Ghana celebrates remarkable growth at 16th AGM. Prestigious commercial space draws top brands. Initial 1,452 micro businesses receiving WAEC assistance. Let's get into the paper. Revival of Agrek underway. A massive government-private program of change to how the country organizes production in the agricultural value chain to promote productivity is making great strides, the story says. The key objective is to de-risk agriculture by developing lands to enable production of key commodities to reduce imports. These policies and initiatives are not the problem, it's the implementation. That's where Benjamin said the detail lie. The devil is in the detail. Stakeholders applaud Kapoa Ship Ghana for continuous community engagement. Angela lists the bank's allegations, demands retraction and apology. Initial 1,452 micro businesses receiving WAEC assistance. Let me get into that briefly. The Youth Employment Agency has successfully rolled out its business and employment assistance program, targeting 1,452 businesses in its initial phase. This initiative is part of a broader effort to bolster Ghana's economic recovery program, post-COVID-19 recovery program. And the program aims to support 10,000 small and medium-scale enterprises and startups severely impacted by the pandemic, with the first phase involving this 1,452 people. Policeman crashed to death at Gomo and Poto checkpoint. That story was last week. We talked about it. Timetable for unplanned outages not feasible. This matters to all of us because when it comes to energy, we are all feeling the pinch somehow. So the Minister of Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, says the power outages experienced 2 months ago were not due to a power crisis. Rather, he attributed the unforeseen factors such as rapid population growth and increased business setups. According to him, a surge in demand combined with an unexpected gas leak at Sen Power resulted in an instant power loss of 340 megawatts, coupled with maintenance at Amadi Power Plant led to the power outages. So it is not doom, so it is doom CSC. Dr. Prempeh argued that these incidents were unplanned, making it impossible for the Electricity Company of Ghana to announce a scheduled load shedding program. And in addition, he disclosed that the Ghana Grid Company also requested emergency outages in some areas, exacerbating the situation. Whatever they're doing, we just need stable electricity on, because without electricity, lots of businesses come to a halt, and life really comes to a halt. Some of us can't sleep in the heat. Navigating copyright issues, the Defe Defe song that Benjamin was humming to this morning. Looks like there's some brouhaha between Team Eternity and Kwame Mikke about who's, the original lyrics of the song.
But I've heard talk about copyright on such items.
There's no issue. Okay.
I have 2 published works, properly copyrighted, right? Do we have that in Ghana, though? Or do people think there are natural copyrights where if you put out something, automatically but there are other steps to be followed. I'm curious about the original song and the copyright issues on it. Some people put those things there when in fact they've not. But I look at the line in question, the Defe Defe chorus line, and there are great similarities. But in essence, if you look at the song in itself, it's not. So these are, but in some cases, someone may tell you it's a line. If you remember the hell that Ed Sheeran has been through, you would know that sometimes it takes just a little bit, and then I think I've even heard, I don't know, though they were beefing, I think I've heard either Kanye West pick a line from 50 Cent. I think it's, if they want to hate, then let them hate. And watch the money piling up, something like that. And he referenced, because he goes like 50 Cent, if they hate, then let them hate, and what the money pile up. Stuff like that. There's a nice way of doing some of these things. I don't know, but I love the song. But if there are copyright issues in there, they have to be dealt with. You can't run away from that.
I think this is a non-issue because the beats, the lyrics, the composure of the song itself has no similarity to
that's what I'm saying. But that's where it's tricky.
You don't own rights to that.
I get it. When I started listening to the conversation, I thought, okay, if it's just defe, I mean, Obiayi will be defe, it's used. But I'm saying that there was line to line.
Yeah.
Okay, the chorus, there's a line in there, and then you compare to, it will shock you, but someone can take you on that. Yeah. So I mean, I'm neither here nor there.
This song, I am here. I'm actually Team Eternity. This song has been, trending for months, and all of a sudden, he realizes that he has copyright issues to pick up.
Jessica.
All right, in a bit, our guests to join us, but let me do some international stories, international business stories. The IMF approves over $900 million to support Tanzania budget's climate change fight. German economy minister urges China to shift from coal power. Wall Street week ahead rally in U.S. big tech stocks may be getting stretched. And Uganda signs deal with UAE to build third international airports. These are just some stories I have here in the New Finder newspaper. In terms of tourism, arts and culture, HIV ambassador takes live on campaign to Ayi Mensah. That's a powerful one. We've been talking about this HIV, the hike in numbers of people contracting the virus, and women particularly saying, I mean, your conversation with Dr. Tiahini, that women are not disclosing their status to their partners for the fear of being deserted. And I thought that was really interesting. But in fact, it generated a little bit of arguments in the newsroom on Friday, where they're saying that ideally, when you, as a married woman, or if you're married, well, you're in a long-term relationship, if you go for antenatal, it's compulsory to take the HIV test. And when they find something of concern, they have to invite your family, whether you have children, your husband or wife, and then they can test all of you for proper counseling. But this doesn't happen, which is why some women are able to escape telling their partners. And because they don't want to be deserted, they just hide the medicines, hide everything, and, you're just risking the life of your family. Anyway, that's that for the New Finder newspaper.
Well, let's continue from there. I'll be getting into my stack of papers shortly. We'll be introducing to you Nanaya Achepem Jantua, former Director of Public Affairs at the PURC. She's also here with us for the newspaper review. Nanaya, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
I'm fine.
Okay, so I'm going to do this before I get into
the former General Secretary of CPP. That
seems to be,
you want us to okay, former General Secretary of the CPP as well. Yeah. But very quickly, is there anything, I was asking Sweetie earlier, is there anything that you carried over the weekend, something that you're passionate about, any news story you'd like to briefly talk about?
Oh, this AIDS thing. Good morning to your viewers, and good morning to everybody. This HIV AIDS thing it's been bothering my mind, especially the young ones, the 12-year-olds who are getting it from the old men. And it's a bit problematic. I think that we've neglected the education on HIV, and we are talking about stigmatization. But we need to talk about it. We need to go back to the days of education on condoms. Because when people are engaged in these sexual activities, you are not there to stop them.
Right.
And there's this myth that if you sleep with a virgin, you'll be cured. And I think, yes. And
there's that misconception.
Yes. And I think the men are carrying it a bit far. So some men.
Some very miseducated.
It can be even educated. I mean, people are in denial. And I believe it is time for us to start the education and also let everybody understand that it's not a death sentence anymore. That there are ARVs, when you take them, it reduces the virus load. and you'll be all right. There are people who have married, have kids. I have a friend, I used to work with NAPLAS. My NGO used to work with NAPLAS, and I have friends in there. Some of them have given birth. They have remarried, given birth. Children are free, their husbands are free, because they stick to the regime of ARVs. So I think we really need to do a lot of education. As we do free screening for breast cancer and all that, we should start doing free screening for HIV.
It's actually free.
Yeah, but
public health facilities.
Yeah, but advertise it more, because now if you are not pregnant, who is going to screen you? So there's a need for us to have a concerted, sustainable drive, educational campaign towards issues regarding HIV/AIDS.
Right. And just to add, now there are the oral swabs available. If you get it from public health facilities, they would be free unless you go to a pharmacy or something. So you can literally, you don't even need to prick or anything. Swab your mouth and you can check. And beyond that, depending on what shows, you could escalate it and go to a public health facility. But I just want to take 30 seconds to do this. Sometimes I target some people who send in messages because I see time and again the messages they send. You see, sometimes we have these androids, robots, sending in messages. Nana Prempe is one of them. He sends me, I don't blame. I'm reading exactly what he said without correcting anything. I don't blame, because if you are aware of how some of us completed secondary, then you won't sit there and talk negative about free education. It has come to stay. Nana Prempe, if you did graduate from secondary school, and this is the English you write, it is problematic, first of all. You have no idea how I graduated from secondary school. You think yours is difficult. You think I'm sitting here in a tie and everything, so it must have been rosy, right? Even at a point, because my grandfather was a chief and a cocoa farmer, major one in the OT region, what is now the OT region, I got a government scholarship, COCOBOT scholarship, for a period. You have no idea how I've been through school. So don't sit there in your own corner and think that, oh, because he's here, he must have had everything rosily. I read that Professor Akila Kwasoya says, I don't support free SHS policy. It's unintelligent. I've always said, quantitatively, it's a good thing. Qualitatively, it is leading us down a rabbit hole. I was sharing the example with you. You speak to some of these SHS graduates, and they can't string a sentence together. So if you sit there and you want to spew this puerile hogwash, I wonder even what secondary school. Share with me what secondary school you attended. Nana Prempe, share with me. Yeah.
There's something for Nana Prempe to read.
No. Sometimes this week I'll give it to everybody. Water. Because some of the people.
Oh boy.
I mean, you're having the likes of Professor Akila Kwasoya, Ivan Adai-Mensah, and others telling you over time. Even the IMF, the World Bank. When we're going for our IMF program, we were lying and saying that, oh yes, and we'll review and we'll whatever rationalize. Are we doing that? What are we reviewing? What are we rationalizing?
Kenyatta himself said that the free SHS has to be reviewed.
And you have some bots. I will not play those games. You bring yourself. I'll deal with you intelligently.
He said
let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper now. So, Homowa Keep Accra Clean campaign. Gamancha launches massive cleanup. 25 Greater Accra local assemblies to take part. Sanitation offenders to be arrested. WAEC set to organize 2024 BEC. Receives 47 million Ghana cedis from government. Maybe you'd like to quickly reflect on that. I'm sure you know the story. WAEC initially not the thoughts that they wouldn't be able to do it, but now they are going to execute the BECE. Compassion Restoration Center initiates zero drug abuse addiction campaign among students nationwide. On the back page, 5-day FIFA TDS workshop ends in Accra. I remember the famous pronunciation, FIFA. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Not to say it's wrong. I mean, this is 16 teams to battle for 2024 MT and Ashanti First Community Gala Honors, and Cultural Links donates the Street Academy. So all of those stories in there. I'll just do one of the stories, and or two of them. So let me go to page 15. For starters, very quickly. Now, Gamanche King Taki Teiko Tru II has launched the Homowa cleanup exercise, cautioning that all shops must remain closed on the day of the exercise. Quoting him, he says, "We expect all shops and businesses in the designated area to close on the day of the exercise. We also urge leaders of various groups and associations to participate fully." And as for cleaning Accra, it's become something that we cannot do without. There's also, "I'll ensure greater transparency in government, allow anti-corruption institutions to work." Ex-President Mahama. Is this Mahama 2.0? I mean, gender transparency, they've all tried, from President Rawlings, anti-corruption institutions and all of that. I'm a bit curious about what exactly has changed, but anyway. Compassion Restoration Center initiates zero drug abuse addiction campaign among students nationwide. And that group, a rehabilitation center in Accra, has embarked upon a vigorous nationwide initiative to ensure zero drug abuse and addiction among students and create a conducive environment for them to achieve their educational potential. That's it for me for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. I'll just end on this. As parents, because of groups I'm in and how I get to interact with young people, sometimes you sit at home and you think, oh, Mebano, when they come home, they are this, they are that, so they are cool. If you knew what they were doing in school, some of them, secondary level, tertiary level, and drugs and all that, you'd be stunned. Check on your children. Nanaya.
You see, immediately you mentioned garments clean up, my ears started cocking up. Now we are giving then we should give our nation to the chiefs. Because I remember when Nanadu
But the chiefs are already playing a role, even constitutionally.
And we should let them take over. Because when Nanadu became president, he said that Accra will be the cleanest city.
In Africa.
In Africa. In 2016, he said the 2020. Now, Accra is about maybe the dirtiest city so far. And now it's going to take the government to clean Accra. What is the AMA doing?
But is it not meant to be a collaborative effort? All of us are supposed to come together and do
effort. This is somebody who has seen what the problem is and taken the mantle to do it. Where is the Greater? Who is the Greater Accra mayor? You don't even know the person. The person is not anywhere.
Oh, but
who is the person?
Elizabeth.
So she's
the AMA boss.
It is a woman,
yes.
And Accra is dirty like this. Women are supposed to ensure that there is cleanliness at home, and you've been given a responsibility to ensure. And her office is right in the middle of Accra.
Is it just women?
No, I am saying that, no, you see, we have roles. No matter what it is, we have roles. That one is for another thing. But we have roles to play. And it's been there generation to generation. So, yes, right. It's another argument. But I am saying that we ensure, even when your husband puts a sock somewhere, of which they will do, you ask him to the Twitter, can you lift it up? Do you understand me? The husband wouldn't see anything wrong, but you say, can you lift it up? When your son is littering, you say, can you lift it up? So that's women. So I'm saying that you have a woman as mayor of Accra. And we have a mayor. And Accra is so dirty, it is alarming.
It's a conversation we can have some other day. We have to go, but I'll just end with the publisher newspaper. The new publisher, Iyoko boss fires up newly trained military capos. And this story got me. Baupizi in London, when they start giving interesting nicknames. Baupizi in London, make me president. I have passed VIP exams.
Who is that?
Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, a.k.a. Baupizi.
That's his name?
Well, that's what the new publisher says. It puts it in quotation marks, though. Baupizi, you know.
He said he has passed the... Who marked him? He has marked himself. How does he...
Okay, you know what? For the sake of... Interestingly, we've been given a few more minutes. So let me get into the story. Baupizi in London. Make me president. I've passed VIP exams. Yeah, so let me get into that. Ghana's Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, affectionately nicknamed Baupizi. I didn't know it until the new publisher said it. So henceforth, I guess we can call him Baupizi. By Gen Z folks, has told a Ghanaian audience in London that he has performed outstandingly well as a vice president. Therefore, he should be promoted to become the substantive president come the December general elections. And quoting him, he says, most people say I have been the most impactful vice president in the history of Ghana, and that is based on my performance. If you look at the policies I have initiated and championed in the last 8 years, you can count 33 policies. Can you think of one policy, just one policy, that John Mahama has initiated? So the score between Bawumia and Mahama is 33 for Bawumia and 0 for Mahama. Dr. Bawumia noted in his address at a fund-raising dinner jointly organized by the Young Executives Forum and the UK branch of the New Patriotic Party. And yeah, there it is. So I will reiterate, as he says, can you think of one policy, just one policy that John Mahama has initiated? So the score between Mahama and Bawumia is, or Bawumia and Mahama is 33 for Bawumia and 0 for Mahama. He says he has passed the VEEP exams. And don't you tout him as being the best VEEP in Ghana's history? And I must say...
He says he's passed the exam.
Yeah.
What were the questions? What was a marking scheme?
The questions?
What are the 33 questions?
So who marked him?
No, he says 33 policies.
But that is
or is it the 70 plus he presented?
No, the 33. These are his 33 questions. We should mark him one by one.
The policies, yes, the 33 policies.
Yes, that is
should be his question.
These are his questions. So when you are marking, I stopped you, go on.
No, but you see, this is what's happening. It's election year. They need to appeal. They understand now that the EC is onboarding hundreds and thousands of young new voters, right? And so they need to appeal to them. The dancing, Baupizi. That's not what we need.
Baupizi.
That's not what we really need.
But if you are hungry,
I'm a young person.
Will not feed you.
Listen, young people cannot afford to eat 3 square meals a day.
001.
Young people do not know whether or not they will be getting, good quality education anymore.
Yes.
Young people don't know whether they will be sleeping in lights or not. There are so many things happening in this country. You think a nicknaming.
That's why he says give him this.
How come nobody knew him?
No, he didn't give himself the nickname.
Necessities now have become luxury.
This is all just so that they can appeal to the Gen Z. Who are not calling him that. He's calling himself.
Who are Gen Z?
Those born after what? Is it 2000 and what? Or is
it
but
they know
the other Gen Z.
You see the Gen Z situation, the life of the parent of the Gen Z impacts on the Gen Z. If home is good, there is food, there is money to go around. Your father's work is going on well. The depreciation of the cedi has not affected his fortunes or your mother's fortunes. Do you get me? Then the Gen Z is okay. That is where they can even call themselves Gen Zs, because then all the fashionable things they can do. And now fashion has been put to the background. So you can't go and buy a Nike trainers when you don't have money to chop. You can't go and buy a Prada bag or any designer bag, Louis Vuitton, as a Gen Z when there's no money at home.
But he's saying, if you want to put that to him, that's why he's saying give him the steering.
What steering?
You're enjoying this.
No.
Give him the steering.
Which steering is that? Which steering should
the steering of leadership in Ghana.
Oh, but he's in leadership. This is why I don't understand it. You see? No, because
he says he's not president. The president himself at that said that the buck stops with me. And the vice president has said he's a driver's mate.
Okay, I understand. He says a driver's mate.
Yeah.
A driver's mate who can make policies. A driver's mate who can pay for the...
A driver's mate who can make 33 policies.
No, the driver's mate who can pay for the insurance of the car. From his own pocket and say that I paid for the car insurance. A driver's mate who can buy a car part without going to the driver. And a driver's mate who has 33 policies. So how did he get 33 policies and that he has exacted all the 33? So if he was a mate, how did he have 33 policies? It is only the president who has policies. So if you're a vice president who has been able to get 33 policies, then it means that you are very formidable. Look,
And let me just quote him here. He says, if you look at the policies, I have initiated and championed in the last 8 years, you can count 33 policies. And that's why sometimes it is disingenuous, because on the one hand,
you say
I am not the driver.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I have done things. And so, but some would say, I mean, he is part of, when you elect a president, automatically you elect a vice president.
Yes.
So they must work hand in glove, all that. But I would wish, since he says he's passed the exam, I would wish that some of the questions he posed to Emisa Arthur and others, maybe they should be put back to him. Foremost on my mind, the exchange rate.
My dear, please, those are
one
old...
cedi, $1.
Those are old questions.
1 cedi.
It's a Pasco.
A Pasco.
A Pasco. So he has 33 policies. So we should start asking how these 33 policies have positively impacted our lives. He said, my policies. 33 of them. So we are not giving him too many questions. We are giving him 33 questions.
Oh, okay.
And we are finding out, we are not doing Pascal. Right now it's exam time. So he should tell us one.
Okay.
This is what I did. E-levy.
I just want to
we have to go. So yeah,
Do you remember when Mahama and the others were campaigning during the 2016 election? What was Dr. Bawumia doing? Holding public lectures, educating people on the fundamentals of the economy, breaking down what it means when the exchange rate is weak.
The fundamentals will expose you.
When the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the fundamentals
This man convinced us that he understood what it takes. I mean, he's still there. So what it takes to run an economy, you know, whether it's recovery,
that they had
no taxes,
locked up the dollar, given the key to the IGP.
That was after when the thing started dropping.
What have we seen? And then you say, I have passed. We should be able to tell you whether, I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President, we should tell you if you've passed or not. You don't tell us whether or not you've passed.
But that's politics, right?
We are the examiners.
Yeah. We are marking.
But that's
we are the examiners.
But that's politics everywhere. I mean, the politician will not come to you, and that's where I feel globally we have problems, because leaders everywhere are, I don't know, especially here in Africa, they're acting as though once we finish voting for them, we're useless. We don't even have a say. We can't even determine the very things that we want. They tell us what we want. You remember the e-levy?
Yes, I do.
And the conversations around them, until people had to be very... And I feel, you see, when you start pushing people, and they realize that every time we have to hit the streets, every time we have to be very rough, you are creating a society that becomes aggressive, and then you lose... And you know what aggressiveness has cost us as a country before.
Yeah.
So I don't get the logic. And I don't know, for the life of me, let me just end here. Why can our leaders not at any point come and say, for example, you know what? When I came into office, I think Kufuor did a bit of that. These were my expectations. This is what I thought was there. But in your maybe I say, this and that. Our leaders can't apologize. In fact, they insult you when they err or they fail. They are unable to say, oh, you know, I actually promised this. The reality is we are not there yet. Like cleaner city in Africa. Are we anywhere close to that?
No, I'm saying that you see the arrogance of power. They are not humble enough to come and say that. They become demigods. They are not humble enough to come and say that, oh, as you are saying, we are sorry, what we thought was the situation, it couldn't work. They always have a justification. I mean, even what kills me is the NDC thing. Anytime there is a problem, oh, NDC did this. I say that if NDC did it that way, that's why we sacked them. So you are repeating the same thing. Does it make it right? Every day they are equalizing. They don't accept that, okay, we've done it wrong. So we sacked NDC in 2016 because we thought some of the things they were doing was not good enough. Now you are doing the same thing. Even worse.
And somehow we must glamorize.
And you always
thank you.
And NDC did it this way. So if NDC did it and we sacked them, then it is time for us to sack you too.
I wish we had the options and would sack both of them.
Yes, so that it's just that we don't have the options. The options are not there.
Sometimes I'm tempted to...
I wish my CPP could rise.
Right. I'm tempted to lean towards these other minor, for comparison's sake, political parties and these new alliances that we're forming. Because if really our problem is the duopoly, then these small groups, they should grow and become formidable enough to offset the system that we have. Because until we actually break away...
You see, my dear, there are times...
Because it's the same thing. It's really the same thing.
No, but some are better than the others. I beg you. That one, yes, me, I'm fair. Some are better than... Because, you see, for instance, with His Excellency Mahama, you could point to things that he did. Yes, there are governance issues. But these ones, only thing that you can point to is what they are grabbing. Buying state assets, state lands. You can go to Laboni right now. The civil servants' quarters, they have bought all the lands. And I've heard...
Go to Roman Ridge.
All over. I've heard even in Tamale, Borga, everywhere they are buying. The only thing you can pinpoint is the looting. You cannot pinpoint and say, oh, he's done this, he's done that. Because I always say that as humans, things happen. But You came with promises, so many promises that you behaved like political playboys, and we followed you.
They behaved like what?
Political playboys, and we followed them. We went with them. We believed in them. That is the most painful aspect, believing in them. And this is where we are today. Dollar to cedi, 16 cedis.
But I have a question, though. Where do you get to the point where, as a country, people come into government, and I'm not restricting it to this administration, but you come into government and an asset that belongs to the state, you want to leave with it?
They're all guilty.
I mean...
Kwame Nkrumah's assets.
I don't get it. Shouldn't we rather be striving to leave something for the state and for posterity?
And protect
but you
it.
come and what exists, you want to take and make your personal property. How do you think? I've heard of cases of people, so many things. But I just sometimes I get confused about, but it boils down to our society. It's the mentality. You go into government to get rich. Unfortunately, again, the deception. The president said, those who are thinking of coming into my government to enrich themselves.
Please don't even because you see the president himself, maybe age is not. You see, age is not a good determinant.
No, let's not engage in ageism.
No.
I think he's fully aware of.
My dear, please, age is not a good denominator of kinship. No, I'm serious. I think that we should cap the age brackets for our leaders.
To what?
Maybe at most, 70, like Ofor left at 70, beyond that. Do you get me? We should cap it. Age is not a good denominator of kinship, I'm telling you. Because sometimes if I look at the Nanado I know, and I see this Nanado, so I'm wondering what is going on. And I'm not the only person who has said that. Most people have said it. So the question is it the age? Did he become aloof? Was he convinced to be engaged into something? We don't know. Even people, so many people who know him. I met somebody, an older person, a very prominent
Don't worry, Dr. Arthur Kobina Kennedy came here and said,
yes,
the Nanado he sees I play today is not,
yes.
I mean, the rhetoric
Are you
versus
guys
what he
sure
sees.
it's not the same person, just a maxed version that we saw because he needed something from us?
So you're saying
now
this is
the
Nanado Pro Max?
unmasked person,
No,
the real.
but
you were saying about Dr. Nyahunya Tamaklo telling you that he warned us that this man is arrogant, this man is this, that, and if we put him in power...
No, there's a difference between arrogance and engaging and allowing people to engage, and maybe people around you engaging in corruption.
I'm saying he doesn't care enough to want to even be accountable for these things. He doesn't think that...
But the other thing too is that two people at least, you remember Kwesi Nyantechi, and then you remember Charles Edubuahin.
Right.
People have said that somebody and another person are in their pockets, and that if you pay X, Y, Z. So going back to your point about, people are engaging in this, clamp down on them, who knows who is a beneficiary?
Because, Benji, sometimes we mix the two. Arrogance is a mark of kinship. It is not, you have...
Arrogance is a mark of kinship.
Yes, a mark of kinship.
You need some arrogance.
Yes, it's a mark of kinship. Me, I'm a royal. Yes, a little bit. To give you some confidence. It's a mark of kinship.
I thought confidence rather, not arrogance.
No. Sometimes we mistake arrogance with being rude. Do you get me? When you are rude, that one, you are not polite. But if somebody is arrogant, it's a mark of kinship.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean you should be corrupt.
I mean, the degree of arrogance comes to play.
We have to, we really have to run. I've enjoyed this conversation. My two guests, because today she started as my guest.
Okay, I wasn't here, okay.
Yeah.
But thank you for watching. This segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And here's what they're offering you. If you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Just reach out to them at any of their branches. We start with Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. There's Kumasi Krodumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrade Energy State, Tema, Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama in Zima. If you'd like to call them, reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Stay with us. When we return, we'll start with our big stories, starting with that conversation on non-communicable diseases and more. We'll be back. Welcome back on the AM show. We're going to be focusing on education for starters. And guess what? We're heading straight to WAEC and its funding challenges. Now the BEC is the one in the fray, but it's not only been the BEC. Today, however, we're focusing on that. So why are these systemic funding challenges prevalent? Why have they been with us for so long? And things came to a head now. Now we're talking about 80 million supposedly disbursed, 47 million Ghana cedis received. But what is the true story? Joining us for a conversation this morning, we have Kofi Asare. He is with Africa Education Watch. We'll go into Parliament as well and speak to the powers that be on education. But for now, Mr. Asare, a very good morning to you, sir.
Hello. Hi, good morning. Good morning to your audience.
It's really good having you. And let me also just mention that in the studio, we still have Nanaya Achepim Jantua. She's also very concerned about education. She'll be sharing her thoughts on that matter. But Kofi, in terms of where we are now, the challenges where just a few days ago we were being told that if things were not remedied, perhaps the BEC would not even come off. I would ask you, how did we get here? Historically and currently, the challenges. Walk us through them.
Well, we are confronted with a systemic issue which has existed because generally in the social space, many of our social interventions are not properly targeted, in the education sector especially. You know, when we talk about targeting, people quickly brush it off because they think we talk too much, or they think that it doesn't inure to their political understanding of what the solution should be. But the reality is that a lower middle income country like Ghana cannot effectively sustain the implementation of social interventions if we do not target when advanced countries are targeting. Now, what do I mean? We have a free basic education policy. We have a free basic education as a right and being implemented. We don't have a documented policy on free basic education. And so because of that, the assumption from the beginning has been that once you're in the private sector, you don't enjoy free basic education. Once you're in the public sector, you enjoy free basic education. That has been our mundane way of targeting. This has extended to the secondary level. It is only for interventions that are implemented under the Ghana School Feeding Program. That's under the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection, where you see the Ghana School Feeding Program and then the LEAP being targeted. So for instance, the Ghana School Feeding Program, close to 3 million children are benefiting from feeding, even though we have 6 million children in basic schools, in public basic schools. And then you have also LEAP benefiting over 1 million individuals, even though we are 30 million in Ghana. I'm not getting it because it's targeted. We have data available that guides the implementation of these two social intervention policies. Data at the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection and data at Ghana Statistical Service. That determines who are the poorest so that interventions can be targeted. But we have decided that for convenience sake, we will not use that data, and we are very comfortable with using very, very mundane targeting approach. That's why we are here, because otherwise, government shouldn't have had a problem in addressing the issue of WASI and BEC. Now, what is the issue of WASI and BEC? The BEC issue is simply that some students or students who attend public basic schools will require government support to register for BEC because it's assumed that they are poor. Okay. And so government pays their BEC fee, which is now about 90 million Ghana cedis. All right. But the reality is that not every.
So you just referenced the BEC registration fee. Is that what you're referencing, or WASI?
Yeah. Yes. BEC annually it costs about, in excess of 90 million.
Because I'm looking at the 2024 registration fee figure, and it's 95 million plus. So that's what you're referring to.
That's for BEC, yeah.
Okay.
And they're talking about WASI, which costs almost 180 million Ghana cedis. Now the BEC, I want to start the BEC. Now the BEC, the assumption that every student in a public school accounts for a poor family or household is not correct. You can't. There are many students in urban Ghana attending high-end public basic schools, like the one at Accra Training College. There are so many public basic schools that you can't even get admission to attend. They are in Ghana here, or they are very, very top performing basic schools. The parents of such children are not poor parents. So the assumption that everyone in the public basic school is poor, so government should pay and block BEC registration fee, is not proper when you're talking about economics. Now I go to the WASI 2. Same thing. Assuming that every student in a, what's the problem? The problem is that you want to ensure everybody has access, everybody is able to access secondary education and complete. And so because of that, as part of free senior high school, we say that once you enter free senior high school, you enjoy free WASI. But the reality is that not every student in senior high school cannot afford about 460 Ghana cedis or so. It is not true that all senior high school students can afford. Majority of them can afford that amount of money. So many times our approach, there's a problem. The general problem is that some students do not have the capacity or may not have the capacity to pay their WASI registration fees or their BEC. That one, it is a fact. There's a problem. But in solving it, a country like Ghana should be asking itself first, the approach that I am adopting in solving this problem is the approach one of the lowest costs of effectively solving the problem? That's the question we should ask ourselves. That is this approach one of the lowest costs of effectively solving this problem? If you ask that question and you take yes, then you are targeting, then you are being efficient in deploying resources to tackle a social problem. In our case, we don't ask such questions. The only question we ask ourselves is this approach the easiest way to solve the problem? And then yes, let's pay for all, and then we pay for all. That is why we are here. Otherwise, if we were paying BEC and WASI fees, especially WASI fee, which is almost twice the BEC fee, if we were paying WASI fees for only the poorest, only the poor students who cannot afford 460 or 90 Ghana cedis, after 3 years, we shouldn't be paying 180 million.
How much do you think we would be paying?
We would be paying only 1/3. I believe that only 1/3 of students in senior high schools may have genuine reasons to need or to require the state.
So that would be about 60 million Ghana cedis.
Exactly. Now, if you are spending 60 million cedis to pay for WASI fees for poor students, that's 1/3 of the students in our senior high schools, then you are freeing resources to support schools that do not have beds, to support schools that do not have desks in both basic and secondary schools. Because all of these form part of the broader package called free education. It is not just paying that fee. So if you are a country constrained by resource availability, and to be honest with you, we are discussing an expenditure which isn't even there. The money is not even there. So you see, it's a different thing having the money and having the luxury of spending without scarcity. Here is the case where scarcity is staring us at the face. We have severe constrictions in liquidity, and we don't even have the money to spend. We are owing WAEC as far back as 2022. So that conversation is one that we must have. That is the approach to ensuring that poor students who are unable to pay their BEC and WASI to pay for both children of the rich and poor. That's the question we should ask ourselves.
Okay.
Second is this.
All right. Go ahead. Wrap with the second, then I'll take a look at some of what WAEC has said as we have it in our PowerPoint, and come to Sweetie Abochi, who has actually been engaging them. But wrap on your second point, Kofi. Wrap on your second point.
We dive into the fees. Yes, government has demonstrated over the years. I mean, since 2020, when WASI was fully absorbed, was actually absorbed by government, and also for some time now, since BEC was fully absorbed. Every time it's always challenging to raise money to pay WAEC. It is not surprising at all. Not surprising at all. Because that money you see there is supposed to be paid from the interventions budget of the Ministry of Education. Now, that interventions budget of the Ministry of Education is financed from GOG. GOG is the most unreliable source of funding to the education budget.
The government of Ghana.
That money is not coming from ABFE. That money is not coming from IGF. That money is not coming from donors. Neither is it coming from Get Fund. it is coming from GOG, which is the most unreliable source of funding into the education kitty. So to begin with, what is happening in terms of the erratic release of funds, not release, disbursement of funds to WAEC to pay BEC and WASI is actually the situation for other expenditure lines in the goods and services budget of the Ministry of Education. So it is not peculiar to only WASI or WAEC. It affects capitation grants, it affects feeding grants to special schools and other intervention budget lines of the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
And so you can't solve that without improving budget credibility. Budget credibility is simply that if you budget to spend 500 million Ghana cedis on goods and services, disburse the funds timely and ensure that by the end of the year, your budget is at least, you will release the expenditure is proportional to the budget. But where at the end of the year, you are hardly releasing even half of what was budgeted, or where during the year, you are not releasing the funds at the right time, then you have low budget credibility. That for me is the problem and how to approach it.
All right, just hold for me. So just to take a quick swipe at our PowerPoint presentation, when you look at the facts and figures actually there, you would see that WAEC's challenges and outstanding debt, it's been a continuous thing. 2023 outstanding registration, 698 plus thousand. 2024 registration fee, 95.8 million. 2024 part payment received of 2.38 million, and 2024 is outstanding. So you are looking at the BECE, the outstanding sum there, 93.4 million. That's for the BECE. And they also give us figures when it comes to WASI, based on what they presented to Parliament. In 2022, outstanding fees, 9.97 million. 2023, outstanding, 56.5. And 2024, the registration fee that is now due, almost 180 million Ghana cedis, 178.3 million Ghana cedis. All of these are the details where we have to look at. And, Sweetie, so you interacted with officialdom at WAEC, and, there's been talk about 80 million Ghana cedis being paid. But what is the reality? How much have they received?
They have received 47 million. And it's a warranty.
47 million is what they have received.
Yes. And it's a warranty that has been processed through the Bank of Ghana, like you were saying, and it's not been translated into actual cash yet. Now, John Kapi, the Public Affairs Director, what he's saying is that they can, in fact, proceed with the conduct of the examination, but it will challenge the distribution of papers, monitoring of exam processes, and even stationery. And so my question is, what does this do for the integrity or credibility of the exam process? Because at the end of this, the students are the focus of these issues. So what I want to find out from you is, how do you see this impacting the credibility of the exam process? Because they were expecting close to 90% of the debt owed, but now they have less than 50%, which is not even actual money in their hands yet. What does this mean for us?
Exactly the point. Exactly the point I'm making. The bigger question is, what are the implications of this erratic, budgeting regime on the quality of external assessment and its credibility? If you look at WAEC's data and WAEC's reports, WAEC's biggest challenge today is examination fraud, manifested in examination room collusion between invigilators, supervisors on one side, and then candidates. We have gotten to a pandemic level, if I should say, to the extent that we are not just at an unprecedented high, but we are going out of control. And the situation doesn't seem to be within the control of WAEC because it hasn't got the resources to deploy at the examination center to curb this examination room collusion. In 2018, WAEC recorded 884 malpractices. And I'm talking about only reported malpractices. And we at Edwards believe that the reported ones are in the minimum. WAEC reported 884 malpractices in 2018. According to WAEC's report of 2023, that's the previous WASI, we had increased from 800 to 10,000. 10,000 malpractices, in WASI alone. And by this 10, it's 10,016. What does this mean? It means that the trend in malpractice at the examination hall is rising. We all acknowledge that it is because of the poor quality of invigilation and supervision. But good quality invigilation and supervision is a function of investment. We have advocated at Edwards that WAEC should engage external people and not staff of GES or teachers in the schools to invigilate and supervise. And that's the only way that's the only short-term way to deal with the collusion issue. The long term is to deploy e-testing technologies. But the reality is that WAEC cannot engage outsiders, people outside GES, if they do not even have the money. If they don't have the money, they can't even think about it. And so the first is that once you continue to deny WAEC of adequate funding and timely funding, of course, you constrict their ability to initiate reforms that will strengthen invigilation and supervision in the examination hall. These two lie at the heart of exam credibility. And that is why we are always concerned when it always requires a public outcry before government to be able to dish out some money to WAEC to prepare for an examination. The second is that as and when such funds are available, also is decisive on the quality of planning, organization, and for that matter, the supervision of the examination. WAEC is starting the BEC, I think, in 2 weeks' time, early July. And so, if you delay and send funds very, very close to the start date, then it means that obviously WAEC will not have not the comfort, but they won't have the time and the resources to properly plan and execute an effective, WASI agenda or BEC agenda. So for me, that is the crux of the matter. It is not paying the money at any time, but ensuring that the money is paid at the right time, so that WAEC will have the resources to implement a very, very credible BEC and WASI. Other than that, the data we are seeing here on malpractices, which is a function of poor organization, low investment in technology, and also weak supervision and regulation, will never go away anytime soon.
Let me just add these figures just to corroborate what Kofi Asare is saying. If you look at what WAEC itself provided to Parliament, and you look at the numbers in there. So, for example, in 2018, those engaged in different levels of examination malpractice, 2,787, 2018. 2019, it goes to 8,871. 2020, 6,831. 2021, 10,386. In 2022, 29,291. And then in 2023, guess what? 44,586. In fact, if you pay attention, if you look at the percentages, in 2018, where we have 2,787, that was, if you looked at the total number of those who took examinations, 0.884%. As of 2022, it was 6.988%. In 2023, it was 10+% of them. And this is, like Kofi Asare is saying, this is even what we know, which would be on the lower end. So ask yourself, how about the broader picture? Sweet.
This is where we are. July 8th or July 9th, BEC is slated to take place. They don't have actual money in their pockets, although they have received that warranty. And now there's questions about the integrity or credibility of the exam process, because you need money to, have good invigilation. How does all of this sit with you, Nana?
I'm a bit confused here. When is it Mr. Asare? Mr. Asare?
Yes, Mr. Kofi Asare.
Yes, I mean, everything that he said is a bit conflicting for me. What is the issue?
The issue
is that BEC needs money to conduct an exam.
Why?
And that money is not available. Why is it not available? For me, that is what we should be looking at.
But that's one of the issues he mentioned. He says that, I mean, from all these donations or whatever we get to support, the most unreliable is the GOG, the government of Ghana. And they are the very ones we are falling on now for support, the government of Ghana.
So the point is that how has the debt accumulated? And if I could glean from what he's saying, it's like fees, paying fees for the poor. What is the percentage of people who are poor, whose registration fees are being paid?
So you look at free SHS,
yes,
for example,
free SHS,
and they are paying for them
so right now,
en masse together.
So where is the?
That's where he's saying if you could even stratify, you'd be paying about 1/3.
We have BEC, we have WASI.
Yeah.
So where is the debt heaviest?
The debt is heaviest when it comes to WASI, actually.
That is the point. So we need to then...
Because of free SHS.
Yeah, so then it comes to the point that we need to relook at free SHS. That it should be reviewed. And
at least from these angles.
Yes, because, I mean, we don't just say that government owes. Where does government owe biggest? Because now when it comes to free SHS, it's become obligatory that whether you are poor or rich, you are being paid for. So now, we need to dichotomize the two, see where the debt is heaviest. And certainly if it is free SHS, then we all know that it has always been problematic. That there's the need for us to go back to the drawing table because there is no working document on free SHS. It was a political promise that was given, it was just started, and there was no target. I used to say that free SHS should be targeted at the people who need it. The real poor, those who really are poor. So some work had to be done. So the way we are implementing free SHS is like a lazy man's approach. We don't have any document that says that we have about maybe statistical service. There are about 50% poor people in these areas. How do we target them? Let's pilot and see how it goes. So now it is clear, if the majority of the debt is on free SHS, then voila.
Yeah, because if you look at the registration fees, for example, sweetie, if you look at the registration fees, BC is around 90 million.
Yes.
Free SHS is 178 million, almost, and that's because of the free component. It's interesting. Just over this weekend, I had people have this conversation with me, and they were mentioning some of the very same things Professor Akilak Basoya is mentioning. I feel that if you're going to do something like this, target the poorest.
You have to.
In fact, you are trying to, because that's it. Safety nets. You are trying to bring up those who can't match up with some others in society so that we have some equivalence. But if it's en masse, we'll face these problems because someone who doesn't even need it, well, you're paying for the person anyway. And they will not forcefully come and say, I'm paying.
I want to go to the issue of invigilation. You see, it is not a factor of money. When we were in school, our invigilators were coming from GES, but from other schools. So my invigilator was not in my secondary school, so I didn't know the person.
Yeah.
The malpractice that has happened is the fact that the quality of education has dropped. The children are not getting adequate time with their teachers. So at the end of the day, they are most of the time, especially the free SHS, they are home. 3/4 of the time they are home. And they don't have face time with their teachers. So if you go home and your parents are unable to find you extra classes, then you are in trouble. Then you will cheat. And you see, the market there's also a black market in there where the teachers, the invigilators, people are not, they don't have the right kind of, I mean, it's systematic, it's really endemic.
You know something, sweetie, if I just may add this. Because you spoke of, sometimes I feel that, like you said, in the old system, and I went through that, where you would have people from other schools come and invigilate. I just want to, as part of the component of cheating in WAEC's own report, collusion reported by supervisors or invigilators or inspectors. Guess what? 2018, they had 11. 2019, 152. 2020, 267. 2021, 252. 2022, 278. 2023, 479. That's exactly it.
Yes. So the point is that we need to have a look at our whole educational system because we are churning out some form of, I don't want to...
It's a fan belt.
Yes.
Produce.
Just produce. Sometimes if you engage a university graduate, the kind of English they will write for you. You say the English is not our mother tongue, but that's what we use to communicate in school. You just wonder, sometimes they actually write the WhatsApp English. Yes, on paper. So we are really in trouble. And the government should, this is what I say, and they say me, I am against government. It's not that I am against government. This is about us. This is about the generation to come. These are the people who are going to take over from us. and they are not being educated. They might be literate, but they are not educated.
Right.
So the same person is going to have to read a contract.
Yes.
That is being signed
and
with
interpret
some
the
other
contract.
entities
Yes.
where people are actually thinking. And this person can't read between the lines and will be signing any contract.
I just want to end by saying that the government should do well to pay this money. They have used money to dig a hole at the National Cathedral site, which is 300 and something million Ghana cedis. They have spent so much money on things that are not productive. They have to find money for WAEC because they have already destroyed our educational system. They should not destroy it any further. This anxiety is not good for the young
And the
ones.
point I wanted to make about the malpractice is that as we speak, with this 9th July staring us dead in the face, John Kapi is talking about distribution, monitoring, and stationery. And we're talking about invigilation. I think that if the money they need to conduct credible examination was 90 million, and now they have 47 million, it means that the number of people, personnel, that they can contract to carry out these invigilations will reduce.
Yeah.
And that will just see a spike in the numbers. Where did the Vice President get the money to give 500,000 CDs to the Black Stars? 200,000 to last 2 weeks ago, the Vice President gave out
close to a million Ghana cedis.
A million Ghana cedis. Charitable donations, okay, to the
Black Stars to another group.
Another group. So we need money to conduct examinations.
As official or his personal money?
He just gave it to them for the good work that the Black Stars are doing.
Bank of Ghana.
So how about we rechannel all these monies that we're giving out of the goodness of our hearts, and
but 500,000 is
do something good with it.
But why is he not talking about it?
Who not talking about it?
The Vice President. Why is he not?
There are a number of things happening in the country that the Vice President
is not talking about. He's sleeping, you know.
He's
asleep.
Did he just say the Vice President was sleeping?
Yeah, he's asleep. He's sleeping on the job big time.
He's been touring the country. Let's not say he's...
but he's sleeping on the job. Touring the country, is that part of the mandate we gave him? To be touring the country for himself or for us? He's sleeping on the job.
He's still looking for the steering. But
which steering is that?
He's going to steer the country. But let's bring in Peter Nochu Kotoi. He is ranking member on the Education Committee of Parliament. It's a good morning here, and we are hoping it's good at your end as well. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, yeah, it's good morning over here, too. I hope all is well.
By God's grace, yes. We're alive and kicking. Let's just, to kickstart the conversation before Sweetie comes in, you've heard of the challenges. WAEC has made a presentation to you in Parliament. What do you make of the funding gaps that WAEC has faced? I was just looking at some of the metrics a short while ago and the incidence of so many things on the back of poor funding. We know that even in terms of registration fees, they need north of 90 million for BEC, almost 180 million for WASI. What is your reading of the situation, and how can Parliament contribute to solving this once and for all?
Yeah, thank you very much. It is very worrisome that every year we have to speak before WAEC is given what is due them to enable them conduct the pre-teacher examinations like the BEC and WASI. For the past 3 years, minority had to come in, make noise before government will live up to expectations. So if we continue this way, I don't think WAEC has a brighter future in this country. You see, the money that is due to WAEC is the registration fees charged, approved by Parliament, to be released to WAEC. Government said, I will absorb every payment for registration for BEC and WASI candidates. Then we budgeted for it, Parliament approved it. Releasing the money becomes a very big challenge. If not because private candidates for the BEC pay the full fee, I don't know how WAEC would have even prepared for the examination. So that is a challenge, and it is unfortunate that we are treating WAEC this way. In the other countries like Nigeria, Sierra Leone, the Gambia, and Liberia, as soon as Parliament approves the money and the year begins, WAEC is giving every money to work with. But it is the reverse in Ghana.
Mr. Nochikutoi,
earlier we
the money that Mr. Nochikutoi.
Hello.
Yes. So the money that has been approved by Parliament, is it available, and the government is just holding on to the money, or the money is actually not available, and it's just the budget that has been approved by Parliament for them for it to be disbursed to WAEC? Is the money available and not being disbursed?
For me, the money should be available because it's an obligation, and you must work towards it. If you are able to get money for other expenditures that are frivolous and petty, why can't you get money available to pay for the services that WAEC will render on your behalf to these young students of ours in the country? So it is a lack of priority on the part of government. That is the cause of it, nothing else. They cannot tell us that the money is not available. If we are able to get money to do things that are not necessary in this country, why can't you get money, 94 million, to pay to WAEC to conduct the bid? It's not fine.
I think the second part of Benjamin's question was how Parliament can solve this once and for all. Yeah. You haven't touched on that yet. Yeah.
Our responsibility as a Parliament is to approve the budget. Every year we sit down with WAEC and the Minister of Education and Minister of Finance. This is how much to be charged per candidate. So you calculate it by the number of candidates that will take the examination. Then that amount is put into the budget. That, okay, when the year begins, release and so amount of money. So Parliament, we have done ours. We don't control the purse. If we did, this would not be a challenge. We are only to monitor, approve. And we have done the approval, and the monitoring has shown to us that government is not playing its part. So we will continue to talk as a Parliament that when the time is due and the money is not released, we will make the necessary talking for government to wake up from its slumber.
So with 9th July staring us in the face, from where you sit, are we able to conduct basic education certificate exam for the young ones in this country?
Yes, I think with persistent talking, they have not been given some money, about 50% of the 94 million. So according to WAEC, in my discussion with them, where this money can conduct the examination to write, or for these candidates to write, but they will need the remaining money to enable them do the marking, the script checking, and the collation, and pay those who have provided services and materials to them on credit. So that is the situation.
All right. Thank you for spending part of your day with us this morning. But we do have to wrap up. Nanaya, yes, what will be your final take on this matter?
My final take is that all stakeholders, as the Honorable says, should come together to ensure that this money is paid. I don't believe that the money should be paid in-house. And also, they have been given a warrant they should give them the full amount. And you see, when government promises, they should, you see, when you promise, you should do what is right. Because you cannot jeopardize the future of these young ones. Do you get me? Government should stop promising. If you cannot do it, you allow parents to also step in as an intervening factor. Because you always tout that, oh, we've paid fees, free SHS, this, that. But at the end of the day, you owe the body that conducts the exams. And from what the Honorable says, as if all the money that is owed mostly is through fees that they have promised, they have used politics, use it for politics and all that. When we look at the data, it started from 2018. Do you get me? So this government should do well, should stop promising. The promises are now becoming too much, and it is also affecting us. All right. They should try as much as possible. If they should do their data, do their analysis before they come out to come and promise. We beg them. The can promise situation is too much. They should stop it.
Okay, and that's what I'm throwing to you, Mr. Kofi Asare. The can promise is too much. But how would you wrap this up for us?
I think that let me quickly correct this. That I initially indicated that the number of malpractice increased from 800,000 to 10,000. Actually, it's actually the malpractice rate. Why I call it the malpractice rate, and it's actually 0.8% to 10%. So that's the increase in the malpractice rate. It's not the actual count, but it's actually the percentage increase in the malpractice rate from 0.8 in 2018 to 10% in 2023. My solution is that I think that one, we should target the payment of WASI fees. 465 Ghana cedis is not an amount that every parent in Ghana cannot pay. Majority of parents in Ghana should be able to pay 465 Ghana cedis for WASI. So let's target it so that government is able not to break a bone in paying for those that cannot pay. For BECE, I believe there are certain schools that, even though they are public, once you attend them, and we have a means to determine the income level of your parent, BECE shouldn't be free for you. Those that need it, government should also pay on time. The third thing is that we must consider moving the funding source of these two interventions, because they are very timely interventions and regular. We should consider moving the funding source from GOG and then shift them to the ABFA, which is the most reliable funding source from the oil revenues. If we do so, it may at least ensure that there is timely of funds to pay for BECE and WASI. These are the things we can do to ensure that WAEC has the money they require to implement BECE and WASI effectively and reduce the increasing rate of examination malpractices.
Well, that's how we're going to cap off the conversation. We're grateful that you took the time to join us. Nanaya Achapem Jantua is a former General Secretary of the CPP, and of course, she's been with the PURC as well. We also had joining the conversation Kofi Asari of Africa Education Watch and Peter Nochu Kotwe. He's ranking member on the Education Committee of Parliament. Stay with us. We still have to talk about what you expect from the political parties by way of manifesto and non-communicable diseases and what the story is, the picture. We've been talking about some of them. We'll be getting into the nitty-gritty on that. Stay. We'll be right back.
The Good Life Health First is an initiative under the USAID accelerating social and behavior change being implemented in the northern and northeast regions of Ghana by the Ghana Health Service, Savannah Signatures, and other consortium partners to reduce the disease burden across multiple health areas, generate demand for an increase in the uptake of health service facilities, whilst creating supportive environment for behavior change. Addressing the gathering, a Deputy Regional Coordinating Director, Sherifatu Jima, who read the minister's speech, said the region has seen an increase in non-communicable diseases. She said even though there is an increase in cases such as cardiovascular disease, hypertension, asthma, and other cases of diabetes has seen a decline, attributing it to positive healthy behaviors adopted by the citizens.
I am informed that non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, that is hypertension and stroke, asthma, cancers, and the others are increasing in the region. The region recorded 0.27% of diabetic cases in 2021. It declined to 0.24% in 2022 and further reduced to 0.11% in 2023. The continued decline in trend of these diseases can be partly attributed to the positive healthy behaviors adopted by citizens through accelerating social and behavioral change activities in the region. It is therefore abundantly clear that adopting positive healthy attitude can be beneficial and co-effective in preventing diseases than to treat them.
The Northern Regional Director of Health Service, Dr. Abdullah Yakubu, whose speech was read on his behalf by the Regional Health Promoter, said the Good Life Health Fairs is aimed at bringing health service and health education to the doorstep of the people.
The Good Life Health Fairs embody the power of community-based interventions by bringing health services, education, and commodities directly to the people. You break down barriers to access and empower individuals to take charge of their health. Through practical demonstrations and direct engagement with health providers, community members will gain the skills and confidence to adopt healthy behaviors and navigate the health systems.
Executive Director of the Savannah Signatures, Dr. Stephen Agwanyo, said the collaboration is aimed at contributing to the Healthy Life campaign for a healthy population.
These health fairs are envisioned by the leadership of the USAID SBC activity, exemplifies the significance of today, June 20th, World Productivity Day, in many ways. Through the health fairs, we showcase how a strategy such as this, a health fair, can help us perform simple tasks but achieve more results, more health outcomes in the end. By doing all of this, we are contributing to a healthy population who will be more productive, and not just to their local communities, but to the nation, Ghana.
And that from the northern region was Martin Abugri walking us through some of the incidents of non-communicable diseases. But dealing with the growing cases of NCDs, as we call them, non-communicable diseases. What are the triggers? How do we prevent or manage them? Well, today we talk to the Ghana Health Service. We are interacting with Dr. Ifua Kome, Acting Programs Manager, Non-Communicable Diseases, Ghana. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
It's good to have you. The last time the conversation was a bit patchy because of the phones, but and then the Waba studio. But tell us, I mean, what is the situation currently with NCDs? And maybe to start, which ones are we looking at? Because there are so many of them.
Yes.
There are the cancers, both childhood and adult. There's the hypertension bit, heart disease. So which ones do you deal with?
Okay, so my office deals with what we call priority NCDs in Ghana.
Priority NCDs?
Yes, we would have to select. Priority because of, you look at the disease burden, and then you look at the preventive factors, sort of the lowest hanging fruits that you can easily address. So in Ghana, our top 4 are the cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, chronic respiratory disease, and the cancers. When you talk about the cancers, we are dealing with breast cancers, cervical cancers, prostate cancers, and childhood cancers. Beyond these, we also have NCDs that we've labeled as NCDs of special concern in Ghana. Something like sickle cell. You don't get the numbers as high as hypertension. However, it's peculiar to our region. And there's so much more that can be done in terms of prevention. Something like mental health. Mental health issues have come up so much. And then also you have something like injuries, which hitherto were not really considered in the health field.
Right.
Yes, there was a lot more considered around injuries by road safety, MTTD, amongst others. But it's crucial that the health sector is also able to address issues related to injuries. So these are the priority NCDs that we currently deal with.
Did you mention hepatitis, or was it the sickling cell?
Sickle cell.
Sickle cell.
Yes.
Hepatitis is not in there.
No, hepatitis is under a different unit in Ghana Health Service.
And now that we have the selections, so cardio-related is used, then diabetes, then the cancers, prostate, cervical,
breast,
and then childhood, right? And then we have sickle cell and everything in between. How are we faring when it comes to these NCDs?
Generally, we are not faring too good. However, when you always say we are not doing too good, it sounds like you're just going downhill, downhill, downhill. I'm sure.
So the glass is half full.
Exactly. A few years back, you wouldn't really hear much about NCDs. Our priorities were largely infectious diseases, maternal and child health, issues. However, based on our disease trends, we've realized that the lifestyle issues are largely coming up to the extent that in 2022, the WHO estimate said that NCDs accounted for about 43% of our deaths in Ghana.
43%?
Yes, in 2022.
That's staggering.
By the end of 2023, we're doing 45%.
So 2022,
yeah,
43%. Was that the end of 2022?
Yes.
By 2023, we were at 45%.
And this 45 did not include the injuries, which account for about 10%. So when you add that, it means we are doing like 55% of all our deaths being attributed to non-communicable diseases. So if this is not something of concern, I don't know what else is a priority. It's crucial that as a country, we focus on these diseases, talk more about them. People assume that it's lifestyle, you should know. But no, people do not know.
In other places, measures are put in place to even streamline how people live. Because once they get these things, it's going to be a burden on the health
system. Exactly. In other places, you'd actually be recalled when your time is up for screening. So that you don't become a burden onto the system. They don't wait for you to catch the disease. And then so much money has to be spent on you. But when you screen, it costs very little. So that is the direction in which Ghana is moving, to ensure that routine screening becomes a part, at least for the adult population. We've done so well for the children. You know, we do the childhood immunization, childhood vaccinations, amongst others. But for adults, there's no structured form of screening. So as and when you want to, then you would walk in. It's about time we become more proactive in ensuring that screening is institutional.
And people will usually tell you about the money, the cost. You see, that's one place where we failed woefully when it comes to education.
Yes.
Because technically, let's take prostate cancer, for example. Those I know who have got it and gone through the cost involved. You get it. Compared to or juxtaposed with getting yourself checked every year
once a year.
and catching it quickly enough if there are any developments in there. I mean, there are the natural ones where as you age, it may enlarge, and those are normal. But are you checking your PSA? Are you knowing what is going on there so that you are not caught pants down and then you have to spend so much?
Exactly.
But I'm curious about something. When it comes to cervical cancer, for example, I know there are some, is it a vaccine?
Yes.
And you take it very young. Do we have it?
It's recommended for persons 9 to 14 years.
Exactly.
It's not routinely offered in Ghana now. However, I know we've applied to Gavi, the global vaccine, in order to ensure that we can get HPV vaccines as part of our routine immunizations.
That is a human papilloma virus.
Yes, a whole lot of work has gone on. We're supposed to get it pre-COVID. But immediately COVID came in, COVID vaccines became...
It changed everything.
Yeah. So it was put back on the table. And now, by the early 2025, I know the EPI program is working to ensure that HPV vaccines are offered routinely in Ghana. Ghana was the first country to actually undertake the pilot. And it was proven to be very effective and acceptable even by the communities. So there's no excuse for us. And countries that did not actually pilot have gone ahead of us to start vaccinating their young girls. Yes.
And you mentioned, I mean, HPV and all of that. But just to find out, is this something that we could get from the Global Fund as well? I mean, in terms of the cervical cancer vaccines.
Avenues that can be exploited, and indeed with the National Vaccine Institute coming on board, it's one of the key things on their banner to ensure that, yes, this vaccine is prioritized in Ghana. But even beyond the vaccines target, as I said, 9 to 14-year-olds. As young people age, we do have the option of screening. I would always come back to screening because it's like the lowest hanging fruit we can
It's your
afford.
life. I mean, you don't need. In other places, they are they want even to inform you that, hey, your time is up. But it's your life.
Absolutely. And there are very relatively cheaper forms of screening that can be done even at the CHIPS compounds for cervical cancers. Yes, and if any early lesions are found, we call them precancerous lesions, they can be treated right there and there, such that the lesion would not... Cervical cancer takes about 15, 20 years before it turns into a cancer proper. Prior to that, you have early lesions that start showing on the cervix. If you don't screen, there's no way you find out. So we are using that window to start screening women, and once the early lesions are there, you pick them up and you treat it, and that will be it. So for women that missed the opportunity to vaccinate, there's the option of screening, which has been shown to be highly effective. And screening, for us, we combine breast and cervical cancer, so you don't have to do cervical cancer at one point and then go do breast cancers at another point. So screening is critical for us, yeah.
I see. And that's quite a cocktail of, I mean, even as you're being selective, because if you look at NCDs, you would have Alzheimer's in there. There are some people who would have that.
Absolutely.
Even epilepsy,
yes,
osteoporosis, and all of that are in there. But of course, based on what resources we have, we're looking at them. But what...
Let me just add that for the other NCDs, they are being dealt under
other programs?
Okay. So my unit is just to highlight the public health components of the priority NCDs I talked about. It doesn't mean that things like Parkinson's disease, dementia, epilepsy, as you talked about, are not being dealt with. Yes, they are also being addressed, but under different groups.
Okay.
Yes.
So these are the ones under your umbrella. But quickly on triggers. I know these cancers, at least you mentioned the lesions when it comes to cervical cancer, but some of them will not show you anything. You are there, then boom.
Yes.
There may be signs, but are there any things we can look out for when it comes to some of these NCDs?
Absolutely. So for the cardiovascular diseases, which form the greatest chunk of NCD, so you are talking heart diseases, you are talking commonly hypertension. So for hypertension, almost everybody has heard something about hypertension. You are talking strokes, then you are talking other complications as well. For the cardiovascular diseases and diabetes, it's been found out that the lifestyle issues go a long way to trigger. There are few, should I say, natural dispositions. So by virtue of being black race, your body naturally retains a lot of salt.
Yeah.
So that in itself sort of raises your blood pressure slightly higher than other races.
Yeah,
When
it comes to prostate, they say, hey, we are more prone. When it comes to
every known disease. But then the fact that that natural predisposition is there does not mean that nothing else can be done.
Right.
So the lifestyle issues, especially from our children, go a long way, starting with their diets.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the issue of fast foods have been normalized in our society. We've actually attached the reward system. Do well in school and I'll take you to...
Yeah, I know you don't want to mention.
Oh, no.
And you see, it boils down to this. I'll let you go on, but that background is crucial. Do you know, for example, till now, when I cook rice, I don't add salt.
Yep.
Because likely the stew, and even in my stews or whatever, I don't like too much salt. Because that's how... growing
it's
up.
A habit. And it's
so that you're adding salt in the rice, you're adding salt here, you're adding salt everywhere. Oil. If I'm going to fry an egg, my mom had this thing where she would mix it with a bit of water so it's not so much, or very little oil so it's pretty dry. I mean, these are basic, small things.
Habitual, and you need to learn those habits. Otherwise, you get so used to the unhealthy lifestyle, you feel that is the norm. Sugar, for instance, adding extra sugar into your tea, diet, whatever. It's a totally acquired habit. There are naturally occurring sugars in almost all our foods. The ones that even don't have sugar have so much carbohydrate that they will be converted into sugar as well. So you just need to learn how to reduce the amount of salts and sugars you put in the diet. And once you get used to them, for instance, with the salt, it would mean that when you start eating other people's food, you realize that the salt seems a bit too much. You know, because you've acquired the taste of lowering your salt content. And that is key, that all of us learn how to reduce our salts, sugars, oils, and all those healthy lifestyle issues need to constantly be drummed into us in order for us to acquire the habits.
And my producer was just teasing me about something I ate last week. Sometimes the problem is when you go out and you are buying. That is where the problem is. I mean, sometimes you buy your wache or your jollof rice and you can literally, if you leave it for a while,
see the oil.
Like,
And
Why do we do this?
Body. The challenge is you don't even know the type of oil that was used as well.
Is it coconut oil?
You have
Is it sunflower oil? And even now that we are talking about oils, I know there are standards globally. Some of them say, especially for children's development, maybe there should be vitamin A to this level components. And a lot of them you check. I hear there are tests, Ghana Standards Authority and the rest, Food and Drugs Authority, and they are not meeting them. So even what you are buying on the market, you are not so sure
whether it has
it's giving you all of those things.
Exactly. Ultimately, I say that at least for the food that you cook yourself in the home, there's so much that you can do with that.
Yeah.
So why don't you take advantage, and for the food that you cook yourself, ensure that it is healthy enough. Ordinarily, the amount of oil you would have used, try halving it. The amount of salt, try halving it. Sugars. When you go half, before you realize you are literally not putting any in the food. Yeah. And yet it tastes nice. I know a family that decided that they were not going to use spices in their foods.
Okay.
Because they have the onions, they have the bay leaves. These naturally occurring spices are available. Because a man said that anytime he attends a program, he realized there's so much spice in the food, and he cannot tell where it's coming from. So the one in his home, that one he can regulate.
You control that one. When you go out, it's a different matter.
When you go out, it's a different matter. But with time, once we all keep insisting that let us regulate what we cook in the home, when your children get used to it, they get much healthier. We are not ultimately, most of these kidney diseases, kidney failure, and things that come up, you never know the kind of chemical that is going to trigger some of them. So foods that we put in them, it's crucial. That is the thing that we tend to underestimate. And then assume that once it is served hot, it is fine. Most times it is not.
It is not. And when you're buying your wachi and the rest, you know, other things, what do they, is it saltpeter? Yeah. The saltpeter in there. I mean, some of them, so again, you should, sometimes you actually bite something. You're like, hey, Makamo. But that's where you also need to regulate.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, where are you buying it from? And if you're buying it from here and it happens, at least you're not consuming it every day. At least some of these things, they build up over time.
Yeah, you can regulate the frequency at which you consume some of these foods. But I would always say that use the healthier options in your home.
Right.
When you get used to that, then suddenly you notice that the ones outside are not so healthy.
Yeah.
You start trying to find ways of ensuring that most times you eat from the house.
At home.
Yes, and that would go a long way to help.
And you know those who the food is already salty. You are tasting that this food is already salty. Then they go for the salt shaker.
Yep. Makes you wonder.
And then they will come and be complaining, I have hypertension.
Yep.
But let's talk about the triggers. Are there any triggers generally that we should look at? We're already talking about some of them.
Yes.
But beyond these?
Yeah, we talked about the unhealthy diets, which are largely high salt, high sugars, high fats and oils.
So please slow down. Let them hear it. Let it sink in. High salt, high sugar.
Yes. And on the sugar notes, let us also remember the fizzy drinks.
Oh, yeah,
have
those
an
ones.
Extremely high sugar content.
I'll not mention
And
brands, but
they are sprouting up all over the place. Almost every other shop is selling these fizzy drinks.
Do you know the ones I'm scared of the most? Those energy boosters, and then those ones are so high on so many things. And caffeine, it gives you an addiction, gives you something else.
And most of them, the sugars are highly addictive. So you start, you can't stop.
Wow.
So it's a means of ensuring that you go back to keep on buying. And now they've developed these paper-packed ones that our children are constantly taking to school.
Hey.
Some people said, catch them young. That's a very wrong age for us to start introducing them to NCDs. And it's showing up in their blood. When we are testing their cholesterol, their lipids.
Children.
Yeah. Childhood obesity is all over the place.
I was just about to say.
It's showing up in the children. Diabetes, even type 2 diabetes, which normally you'd consider as occurring in older persons. We keep reducing the age to much younger and younger children.
What ages are we looking at now?
So, I don't know what to say normally, but usually you see type 2 diabetes in persons about 40 years, 40, 50-ish, thereabouts. Now you're having 15-year-olds, 15-year-olds coming up with type 2.
We used to look at over 40-year-olds. Yes. I'm sure even in the past, over 50-year-olds.
Previously was above 60. But in our era...
15, 16-year-olds.
Yep. They are now coming up with type 2 diabetes. They were not born with diabetes. They were born with it, it's type 1. That one, there's nothing they could have done about it. But then the acquired ones are now occurring at much younger ages, which should tell us something. And the same thing is even happening with the cancers. We keep on seeing much younger and younger people who are coming up with the cancers, telling us that, Jack, we are not doing so well at all with this. But then you talked about the other triggers, something like physical inactivity. It's been shown that even you being able to be physically active for almost on a daily basis tends to reduce your chances of getting diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, even as well as some cancers. So physical activity is like a natural medicine that has been given to us. And it's essential that we walk. It's not everybody who can do the running and the jogging. Let us just walk. There are apps on these phones that measure your daily steps, for instance. If not, just ensure that within every single day, you get up after 2 hours. Sometimes you can sit at your desk for hours on end. By the time you are done, you are so exhausted, you can only think about getting into your car, going
sedentary.
Totally sedentary. So walking up and down the flight of stairs, walking around the building. These days, I'm even afraid to recommend that people should undertake these organized walks along the route because it is becoming quite chaotic. Vehicular accidents, amongst others. So let us be observant as we are undertaking these walks. Some people are able to walk up and down the mountains, which is good, but it's not everybody who can afford to do that. But within your own environment, let us take additional steps as much as possible. And then there are some people that have family histories. So something like the cancers. If your first-degree female relative, so something like your mother or your sister or your daughter has had a breast cancer before or a cervical cancer before, it's likely that there's some genetic issues going on, and that
you should be looking out.
You should be looking out. For the whites, sometimes they go do the genetic mapping, identify that they're eligible candidates, and then go take drastic measures to ensure that they don't get the cancers. But once your first-degree female relatives have had any form of cancers, please go do your screening. For the men, most time when you ask about the fathers and the uncles, unfortunately, as a part of the world, we don't talk about our diseases. We feel like the fewer people
hiding them.
Yes, the better. Unfortunately, when you do that, we don't learn. If we don't know that people have had it. You have sons who are sending their fathers for chemoradiotherapy and they have no clue what it is that, yes, the men are being treated for.
Whoa.
And it's critical that we talk about prostate cancers. Aside that, men's health in general,
it's
like a hash. Yes, hey. So generally, men don't talk about their issues, but there are serious health issues that we need to discuss with them. If you have it, and you say I
don't know why, but I think it's become a bit of a societal thing. We are too quick to stigmatize. And you remember when COVID came?
Yep.
I remember Dr. Selby, who was heading I think the National Health Insurance bit then. I was so proud of what she did because she contracted COVID and she came out and said, "Oh,
and made everybody know."
So that people realize it's nothing. But we hide everything, and like I say, once we do that, those close to us will suffer the same thing. Lessons that should have been learned, they don't even realize I have to pay attention to this.
Exactly.
And then they also fall in the same
some people are getting cancers and you are scratching your head as to what could have happened, just so that you can even structure your education. And they are like, "Oh, I sent my father for this, but I'm not sure what it was." How is that possible? It's critical that at least for the closest people, you don't need to broadcast it everywhere. Let your children understand some of the health issues that you have had, just so that they can also take preventive measures against these diseases. And as early as possible, the children can start screening for these diseases. Be on the lookout. Thankfully, most of these, when it is starting, it's a bit insidious, you know, slow creeping. So you can catch them early. It's not a sudden thing that happens like the complications, like stroke, for instance. Most of them start on the very low tone. If you're able to screen, you will definitely be able to catch it. So we've talked about the family history, and for the cancers, we do talk about the radiation component, people that work in the industries. For instance, sometimes some of the machines have these
over time, they are exposing
over time, it's sort of built up. Those industrial issues have been shown to cause some cancers as well. One cancer that the specific trigger is unknown is childhood cancers. It just happens. Yes. And for children, we call something early warning signs. So that's why we teach our primary healthcare providers. If you see any of these signs early and you bring the child, they can be treated completely. But unfortunately, in our part of the world, when 10 children get cancers, we are losing about 8 of them. In other parts of the world, 8 of the children are surviving. Wow. And they are losing just about 20%. We want to increase our survival rate from that horrible 20% towards the 80, and if
so I get what you're saying. In other jurisdictions, 8 out of 10 are surviving. Here, 2 out of 10.
Yep.
The reverse is true.
The reverse is true. Meanwhile, if most of these cancers were caught early, they could have been treated. Childhood cancers are treatable once they are found early. Sometimes the eye signs, they call them the cat's eyes. The mother will tell you, oh, looks like my baby's eye is glowing. One of the pupils, the black in the eye, turns whitish, and that is a clear early warning sign that something is growing inside the eye. Sometimes a child that was born with the eyes looking straight suddenly develops a squint. And the mother will tell you that it looks like one of the eyes straying away. Something is forcing the eye to look away. A child that has started walking suddenly decides they won't walk again because there's some pain ongoing somewhere, and they sort of reverse.
Yeah.
They started walking, now they are not walking. Sometimes there's unexplained signs, profuse vomiting, severe headaches, seizures that every lab has been done. You can't seem to find any explanation. We recommend that you refer these children as quickly as possible. And then also,
in other words, when you realize that there are some things that naturally will happen with children, they will get infected, they will go to. But when it becomes excessive, don't just assume, a normal.
No, a child with a fever for more than 2 weeks, you are still giving painkillers. What are you treating? You know, children are one key group that when they are getting better, you see, suddenly they are jumping all over the place, playing exactly. But these persisting symptoms that nobody can explain, we need to get help for them as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, for something like bone pain, the teachers will just beat them. Oh, this child is always in pain. They are always missing school. And we assume that, they might be having sickle cell, and they'll
when it's not even been confirmed.
No. Unfortunately, you screen them and you notice that they are having some form of childhood cancer or these abnormal lumps. And it's really sad when sometimes you see them along the street, they are just soliciting for funds. And you want to inquire, the parents are actually even not willing to let you delve into what the issue might be. Unusual lumps anywhere in the body, it could be a childhood cancer. And we refer them straight to any of the tertiary hospitals. They can be treated.
Right. So and the good thing is, I've been told, there's one blastoma, there was a...
is for the eye.
Yeah, there was a child, I hear the earlier you find those things, the better. I mean, generally, but I hear with the children, it's much easier. Once you see it early, it can be dealt with very easily.
Cancers that occur in children tend to replicate very fast. And once the cancer cells grows very fast, it means they can take up the medicine also very fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you find a child now, you tell the mother, kindly go to this place immediately. The mother decides that they don't have money, so they want to go home and come. By the time you see them, the tumor size could have doubled. So it is that process that the treatment also takes advantage of. Immediately you start the treatment, the cells sort of take up the medicine really fast, and you are able to totally treat childhood cancers once you are able to.
So that's the trick. That's the secret in there.
That's the trick in there. And I mean, you keep on, even mothers can identify these signs because they know their children. They are bathing the child, suddenly the child seems to be in some sort of pain. You report to your provider, let them do further examination. And if need be, they'll refer the child straight to. And because of that doubling time issues with children, we don't let them go through the normal referral system or refer to your district hospital, to the region. No, they refer them straight to the treatment site and they do the confirmation. Which is where? So you have a number of treatment sites across the country. Kolebu is one, Ridge Hospital, Greater Accra Regional Hospital is one, Konfanochi Teaching Hospital is one, Agogo is one, Tamale Teaching Hospital, and then the Volta Teaching Hospital, then Cape Coast Teaching Hospital as well. All of them would treat childhood cancers.
All right. So this one says, Pognab Awonalim says, please let doctor know that not all the medical officers can detect the diagnosis very early.
Yeah.
This makes the caregivers give early, I don't know what, because they have attended different health facilities, especially in the rural areas. It's from Analim Amwak from Sandema.
Yeah, we totally agree.
What's your reflection on that?
The issue with early detection and diagnosis is one key thing that has been identified across all cadres of staff. You know, the health system is sort of structured to be very responsive towards the infectious diseases. See, when COVID came, the way, you know, we were all mobilized to quickly address it. But for the infectious diseases, maximum you've taken your antibiotics for 5-7 days, we are done with you. Yeah. So you can, life can go on. Unfortunately, for these chronic diseases, their nature is a bit different. So at the primary healthcare providers are being reoriented in order to, one, identify them early enough. And once they've identified the appropriate management to give up for that level, is also being taught. There are multiple projects going on across the country that is ensuring that primary healthcare providers, you know, their skills can be topped up in order to detect NCDs. Well,
you mentioned even CHIPS compound, so it means we must do that because even if at the CHIPS compound level,
CHIPS,
they must know
health centers, district hospital, all the way up. And this time it includes private facilities, faith-based groups. Because when the disease is coming, it's not going to discriminate who it affects. So it's critical that we can sort of ensure all health workers have some skill to be able to detect it early, to make the right decision. So I totally agree with him. Yeah.
Now, you made mention a short while ago of the 20% surviving here versus the 80% in other countries. But let's talk about generally the MCDs. When you look at the different regions, what's the regional distribution like? Paint a picture for us. I know definitely some regions are suffering more than others because of access and all. Tell us about that.
There are regional variations for all diseases. Now, we noticed that most complications such as hypertension, strokes, heart attacks, kidney disease, and they tend to cluster around the treatment sites. So it is not that the disease is coming from that region, but ultimately you'll be referred
to that place.
To that place because of the treatment. You cannot get dialysis in a typical district hospital. So you'll be referred and you ultimately either end up in Kolebu, Konfanochi. So their numbers are always soaring. It is not because Greater Accra has more of those diseases, but because we have the centers right here with us. But things like, I'll come back to the childhood cancers again. Some of the childhood cancers have been mapped out to specific places. And a lot more studies are ongoing to find out if the issues were environmental or dietary or what specific. It's been found out that a lot of the children come from specific regions. However, for me, I don't like to delve too much into regional. Whether your region has more of type A or type C disease, it doesn't mean that you cannot get it.
Okay.
You, the individual, when it affects you,
it doesn't make you immune.
It doesn't make you immune to getting it. Because we just finished having a STEP survey, that's a NCD risk factor assessment survey. And it talks about all the risk factors. It takes the physical measurements and then it measures the lab components as well. And the data is now being analyzed. But the preliminary data is showing that across all regions.
All regions?
All 16 regions of Ghana.
Yeah?
The NCDs are being reported. The risk factors are soaring in all regions. Biochemical. So for me, I like to talk about us as Ghanaians. We need to be able to address these issues before it gets out of hand. It's like a ticking time bomb. And also, if you take the hypertension, diabetes, previously, you know, people go way beyond pension before you start somebody developing hypertension or diabetes. Now 20, 30-year-olds are coming up with diabetes. So how long is this person going to be on medication?
A lot of middle-aged people, 30, 40-year-olds, quite a number of those I know, have had some stint with. Yes. Some of them are on medication. Yes. And I hear once you start with the medication, it's a lifelong.
It's a lifelong thing.
So
and that alone puts
it creates other problems for you.
Absolutely. And you know, the voices out there in the community, you are preaching management. They go to the trot stage. Somebody says, I will cure your diabetes. So straight away, and this is somebody who has been told that your condition is going to be for life. They would obviously want to try out a cure. Yeah. The next thing we know are terrible complications that are coming.
Maybe they've ended with kidney failure.
Yep.
And all
so
of that.
It's crucial that although it is lifelong, you know, people who have been on their medicines for decades, if they don't tell you, you would have no clue. Yeah. Once you are taking the medicines regularly, you are following the schedule, you live a
checking
very
your
normal,
blood pressure, ensuring that things are right.
And they have these annual medical checks that are recommended for them, just to know how the blood work is also behaving. You can lead a very normal life. But there's put some stigma with the medications, and it's critical because of the people are actually stopping their medicines.
That's
going to try other things and coming back in much worse states. Yesterday, we met the Society of Private Medical and Dental Practitioners. And that was their number one complaint, that for all the complications they are seeing, these are people that when you go into their histories, they were informed years back that, oh, your blood pressure is a bit high.
Deal with it.
It's important that you keep an eye on it. Then medicines were started. They heard that, oh, if you take the medicines, commonest complaint is you can't perform.
I was just about to get there that the men are also complaining that once you start with the hypertension medication, they check like, bugger, I am red.
So why do we target to the medication while the hypertension itself
is what is causing your
and the
decrease in libido?
Yes, and
that's what decreases your libido.
Itself. No, these conditions affect your blood vessels. That's why we insist on the control.
Yeah.
So it starts damaging your blood vessels. It starts damaging your nerves. So if the control is not well done, that one alone is enough to give you plenty issues.
And an erection is blood work.
Of course.
It's not like some animals that have bones. This is blood work.
Yes. So the two conditions themselves, unfortunately, when one person gets one, you're likely to also get the other if you don't put in enough checks. So the medications are rather protective. However, some way, somehow, we've coined this misconceptions around antihypertensive, antidiabetics that you can get this.
Doc, I want you to make this point because I have met a number of men who say, oh, Mejai Kakra because my hypertension medication is making my...
Yep, and that Mejai Kakra is what brings us the strokes. So when you are on the medicines, it's like having a ball put in water. The medicine is your hand. You put your hand on the ball goes underwater. It doesn't mean the ball doesn't exist.
But it's being controlled.
The control has put it underwater. You are living a very normal life. Immediately you withdraw the control, the ball pops back up. And their blood pressure shoots through the roof. And the next thing you know, it's a stroke. It's a heart attack. It's you know, and it's
I had two gentlemen join me in the studio some weeks back who have kidney disease. They are doing dialysis. One says by the time he ended up, I think he wasn't even checking, his blood pressure was, it had gone through the roof.
Yes.
And that was how they even realized that his kidneys were beginning to fail.
High blood pressure is enough to destroy your kidney. The kidney is made up of multiple blood cells. Tiny, tiny blood vessels in the kidney. So some are bursting, some are not getting enough blood flow. It will destroy the kidneys. The sugar, blood sugar does the same thing. So as for the medicine component, we keep ranting and shouting about it because a lot of people have that mindset that once I start, I'm going to have issues. So let me stop a little And then, and somebody actually said that it is when the BP is going up that he looks for his medicines. And when blood pressure is rising, you don't notice. By the time you have that headache, it's almost too late. So you don't assume that because I'm not feeling anything, nothing is happening. That's why we ask people to screen. You do the screening when you are not sick, because at that time you have no symptoms at all, and that's when your blood pressure starts misbehaving and rising up. But when you screen, then the machine will be able to pick the high value. Sometimes you tell the people and they don't believe you that, no, I went to work. How can my blood pressure be this high? So if you would notice that some people who actually go to work and go and collapse at their tables, if they were sick, they wouldn't have left the house. But because hypertension, you don't notice. It hasn't come with any symptom. By the time the symptoms start, the stroke is about to start. So it is critical that we don't wait to start feeling something before we seek for work. And as a society, generally, we don't visit health facilities if we are not sick. It's as if once you are going to the hospital, you must be sick.
And can't share for me.
I would like to say that for every growing adult in Ghana, with all the stresses everywhere,
and God knows we have many.
Oh, yes.
Stress is not dorsal.
I
mean, going to the market alone can shoot your hypertension.
It's enough to raise your blood pressure.
But let me find out from you. As we talk about all of these things, because you spoke about risk factors, and then you mentioned biochemical triggers and all of that. Recently, we've got reports about galamsey and what it's doing to food, drink, and all that. Are you noticing anything tied to that?
So galamsey is one issue that clearly has to do with the chemical seeping into our water bodies. There have been multiple studies by our universities at these galamsey sites based on reports of, abnormal behaviors, abnormal emissions, abnormal births in these communities. And a lot of research has been ongoing. Some of the chemicals, something like mercury, for instance, it has actually been banned. Now, even the mercury sphic, the BP measuring, there was one that, you pull the thing and then the mercury drops. It is being replaced by the electronic ones because of the dangers of the mercury chemical. And in washing the gold, they use mercury in order to extract the gold from the soil. So it has like a direct linkage to health issues, and these health issues have been observed in these communities around galamsey sites. So that is one of the public health interventions that are put in place at these sites, likely to educate the communities, because when the miners also come, they use local people to mine for their gold. They will take their gold away, and you are left with the remnant disease conditions, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all.
So to conclude the conversation, in some of these cases, yes, we've spoken a bit about the management. Take your medication and do that. What else can you say about management, and how, I want you to reiterate, how are we all expected to do better to safeguard our lives? That will be the final bit to you.
So for public health, we like to sort of segregate the general population into people who are unexposed, let's say the younger children or teenagers who are not having any early signs and symptoms of these non-communicable diseases. It is critical that we start the awareness creation in the unexposed so that they can build up these healthier habits and not grow to acquire the hypertension, the diabetes, amongst others. And there are people who have subclinical signs, or the diseases have started, but it is the very early stages such that it is only through screening that the diseases can be picked up. We recommend that for any adult, once you're above 18 years, some countries, they want to do 30 years, looking at our country profile and the age at which people are reporting with these conditions, every adult, even for the children, school health has started. Routinely to screen the children for most of these common diseases. So for the adults, it is important that at least once a year you do a full medical checkup. Besides that, once a month, just pass through any of these pharmacy shops, drug shops, and ask them to check your blood pressure. Blood sugar, you can do it once a year. Otherwise, if the blood sugar is high and it has been recommended that you do it more than once a year, that is also fine. Yeah. But once you are not sick, let us try and get that yearly or annual medical checkup done. And you'll be surprised that will also do your blood work. So if there's anything going on in the blood, it can be seen. And then we have people who have full-blown NCDs, people who have been diagnosed with either hypertension, diabetes, or any of the cancers. For them, we continue to motivate them to stick to their medicines. Okay. That is one sure way of ensuring that you lead a very normal, productive, and healthy life. Okay. Do not be swayed by the, the messaging about cure. Because it is very rampant. And if you are not careful, you rather come back with a lot of complications. Ensure that you are taking your medicines regularly and sticking to the schedule that is provided. And I want to also add on people who are caregivers to persons living with NCDs. Most times they are forgotten. Now, once somebody gets this chronic disease and gets a complication like, let's say, a stroke, they sort of need to have a regular caregiver that they will be depending on. Most times, these caregivers are also coming down with hypertension because of the stresses of taking care of somebody, and nobody really considers what their health is what is happening in their health. It's important that if you are taking care of somebody with any chronic disease at all, once a year, you to kindly get your blood pressure checked. I tell them that when you bring the person to the hospital, whilst the person is going through the motion, you go check your blood pressure as well. Yeah. You never know what can be picked up. Yeah. And let us remember that most of these NCDs are preventable. Yeah. We need to consciously put in an effort to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Unfortunately, in our part of the world, it's becoming more and more expensive if you want to eat very healthy. But there are basic things such as planting a few vegetables in a small bowl at home that we can adopt. Right. There are some things like watching out for where you buy your food from. Right. Watching out for how healthy the food that you are putting into your mouth, whether it has less oil or the oil is soaking the whole plastic container or something like that. These basic measures would ensure that we are able to curb the NCDs and really control our lives. So ultimately, we all need to be having more productive lives as a people.
Well, and of course, longevity will also affect our country in terms of its productivity. But Doc, we thank you for the education. We're very grateful. Dr. Ifuakome is Acting Programs Manager at Non-Communicable Diseases at the Ghana Health Service. Now, before we veer into our next conversation, under the distinguished patronage of Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Tokono, Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, the UPSA Law School proudly presents the 2024 Lifetime Achievement in Law Award and Honorific Lecture. Now, the event presents a rare but high-level opportunity to recognize and acknowledge the outstanding and exemplary contributions of notable Ghanaian personalities in the areas of the rule of law, governance, and the legal academy. Now, this year's Lifetime Achievement in Law Award will be conferred on Nana Dr. SKB Asante. He's the Paramount Chief of Asante Asokore and former Director, United Nations Center on Transnational Corporations and Chairman of the Committee of Experts which drafted the 1992 Constitution of Ghana at an august ceremony befitting the aura of the occasion. Now, this event comes off on Thursday, the 25th of July, 2024. That is this Thursday at 5 p.m. at the Kofi Ohene Konadu Auditorium at the UPSA. Now, please visit the social media platforms of the UPSA Law School or call 0245 347 946 for more information. But coming up now, in our Safe Water series today, we go to the northern region where a majority of residents rely on dug wells, that is dugouts and dams, and any available water they can find because of scarcity. But why ought it be so? Well, Martin Abugri has that report coming your way next on the AM Show.
luxury that comes with living in the city is the social amenities that you get. But that cannot be said about residents of Taha, Bogoyele, and other surrounding communities in the Sagnarigu municipality.
Bogoyele, Paumo, and Taha are communities in the Sagnarigu municipality, in the heart of the northern region capital, Tamale. But this is the water they rely on. Muddy, brown, and not wholesome at all. But this is what they use for everyday activity.
The major source of water for these communities are dams, and that is even in the rainy season.
Few weeks ago, these communities had to travel over 4 kilometers in search of water in other communities. But fortunately, the rains have arrived, and this is what they call potable water.
This muddy, milky water may look filthy to many, but for this community and several other communities, it is gold. For Latifa and her friends, it's a relief from walking long distance with the advent of the rains.
This is the only water that we have, and it is dirty. During rainy season that we get it, and dry season we don't have water.
So dry season, where do you go to fetch water?
Wovoguma, but sometimes the water gets finished. It is the rain that comes and the water is there.
A nurse at the Taha Health Center, Mohammed Walida, said even though the water is not fit for purpose, that is what the women bring when they are coming to the health center for delivery.
Yeah, we go through a lot, especially with the water crisis. My facility, for instance, if you come from delivery, there's no water for you to use unless you ask them to go back to their home and bring water. And this is the only source of water they have. And this one, we can use this type of water for delivery unless clean water. And the pipes are not open. We have pipelines connected all over, but the pipes are not open. So we are appealing to community leaders, opinion leaders, the government. We are appealing to everybody, those who can support, for us to get a water.
For Mohammed Al-Hassan and his friends, this is where they come to drink water whenever they are playing and are thirsty.
Madam was playing with this and can't drink the water.
The assemblyman for the area, Abdul Fattah Yahya, said even though there are pipelines in the area, the water does not flow.
Because if you trace to the Ghana Water Company, you realize that we have submitted no less than 3 separate letters to the Ghana Water Company Limited just to ensure that our pipeborne water challenges are solved. But unfortunately, they've not been able to solve our water problem.
A resident, Aisha, said, for those who can afford, the best way to treat the water is to add alum.
Unless you buy alum and put it inside. If you don't have money to buy the alum, you won't get this clean water to use to cook and to wash your clothes.
So let's go to your house and see how you cook.
Aisha has just added alum to her water.
When you go to the dump and fetch the water and come back, unless you put alum inside the water before the water will now be clean and you will use it for anything else. Without the alum, the water will not be clean for you to use.
So how long does it take to get the water to settle?
10 minutes time or 20 minutes time before the water will settle. She just treated it a bit and we are waiting for the water to settle so that we can see what quantity she can get for house chores today. For Joy News, Martina Bugri reporting from Paumo.
I remember back in high school, Marco Girls Senior High School, when there was no running water from our pipes. We'd have to walk about 300 meters to the EP church and some houses behind the church just so we can fetch water from some of those households that had polytanks. And we called that a water crisis. But seeing this, people in Taha and other communities in the heart of Tamale drinking this water. It really saddens my heart. But that is a water situation we have right here in the country. Martina Bugri brought us that report, and she's joining us again on Zoom via phone. Martina, thank you for that beautiful report. Now, I saw your facial expression when the boy was drinking the water and you saw him. How did that make you feel? And then tell us what more you can report on this scarcity of water you're experiencing in Tamale.
So now, when I got there and they were searching and everybody was talking, I was doing my report. And then suddenly I turned and somebody drew my attention. When I turned, the boy was drinking the water. And I was like, I tried to stop him, but I came back to my senses and said, well, that's his community. That is what he drinks every day. So me stopping him today would not stop him from drinking. He would continue drinking. But the sad thing is that they just drink it like that, untreated. And the mud in it is so raw. Everything is so raw. But for these children, that is the only water they know.
And this is so normal to them.
Leave his community to maybe come into somebody's house where he can get a cup of clean water. This is the water he would depend on all through until he's able to afford something better sometime, somewhere.
And I saw that the lady was also using alum to treat the water to make it cleaner, before they drink. Is it expensive to come by? Because you were saying that those who cannot afford it have to drink the water that way. Is alum expensive in those parts of the country?
So she says one is 5 cedis. And if she buys 5 cedis, it will take her probably 2 or 3 basins, and then it's finished. How many of them can afford the 5 cedis? That is the question. And a few I spoke to said that even with the 5 cedis, if you manage and buy and treat the water and you take it like that, you run, they have diarrhea. And so it is not as if it's a panacea, to solve the problem. Okay. It is just to make it a bit clean for you to be able to use it to cook and other stuff. But it's actually not the solution at all to their challenge.
All right, so talking about solutions, please hold for me. The assemblyman for the area, Taha Pawumo, Fatau Abdul Yahaya, joins us on phone. Fatau, thank you for joining the conversation. I'm sure you've seen the situation in your community, in Taha and other communities in Tamale. The lady said something quite specific. She said the pipelines have been connected, but they are not open yet. What is the water situation and what are you doing about it currently?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me say a beautiful morning for cherished viewers and a lovely for the track. The issue of water supply area is important. And
Fatau, you are breaking up. So could you reposition yourself and then let's try again?
Okay. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes. Go on.
Yes. Yeah. I'm saying that the issue of water supply, supply of water area is important, and it's quite critical for the water to give it the proper and the attention. After I the office that of the area.
Fatau, I'm sorry, but you're still breaking up. Could you try again, reposition again? You're still breaking up, so the line is not clear. Yeah.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, let's try again. You were saying?
Okay. Yes. After I assumed the office as the assembly representative of the area, I have made several efforts just to change the situation, but not fruitful yet.
What kind of what is the efforts that you've been making so far?
Yes, myself and my team visited the Ghana Water Company office here in Tamale to find out what has been the cause of the non-supply of water into the area. And the response for that, they have to update our existing and pipeline.
They have to upgrade what?
That they have to upgrade the 350 and then 40 pipeline area.
I'm with you, but I think we have to reconnect. We have to drop the line and call you back. But that's the assemblyman for the area, Taha Baumo electoral area, Abdul Fattah Yaha. And he was saying that since he resumed office, he was saying that since he resumed office, he's been making some efforts. He was just going to elaborate on what those efforts are and what results he's gathered so far. We are still talking about the scarcity of water in our Safe Water series. And today we're in the northern region. In that report that Martina Brugui brought to us. Martina, you are still on the line with me. So
yes.
What plan, would you say that any plans at all are advanced to try and mitigate the situation?
It doesn't look like there's any plan. Because when I spoke to the residents, they said they have raised the concerns, they have brought it to authorities, and what they get is that the area needs, their pipelines need to be upgraded by the Ghana Water Limited. But that cannot be done now because they don't have the resources to do. And at the Dalon treatment plant, they are currently not producing up to the maximum that the metropolis needs or the capital needs. And what this means is that you would not get water very often in most communities, and especially communities that are uphill. You definitely won't get water. I haven't had water since February. So if I can't buy, it means that I would be fetching from the same dump with these people because I live close to that community. It means I'll be fetching from that same dump and use it. But fortunately, I can afford. What of those who can afford? And so if your pipe hasn't run for the past 4 months, how do you survive?
How do you survive? Abdul Fattah Yaya joins us again via phone. Hopefully this time it's clearer. Fattah, so you were saying that since you resumed office, you've been making some, you've been taking some steps. What are those steps that you've been taking and what results has it gotten you so far?
Thank you very much. First off, some of the efforts that I've undertaken so far is we did a follow-up at the Ghana Water Company office here in Tamari to find out what has been the cause of the non-supply of water into the area. And the feedback was that the 3 inches or the transmission pipelines in the area are of low capacity. And for that matter, they have to upgrade those pipelines for us in order to have regular supply of the area in the supply of water in the area. So based on this particular feedback, I was driven to have submitted an official request or application letter. There are 2 separate letters that I've submitted so far. The first one was about the upgrading of the 4 inches and then the 3 inches transmission pipelines in the area. Second application was to do an extension to the inner communities or inner residents, those who live a bit far from the main route. Are you with me?
I'm with you, Fattah. Go on.
So that they too can have a portable drinking water when these problems are all solved.
So what's your... Unfortunately, you've not got any results yet. That's what you're saying.
We've not gotten any results
And so residents have to walk about 4 kilometers to go and fetch water from dams, and the water is in no condition to be, drunk, but they're drinking water like that. How does that make you feel?
It's a sad situation. It's something that every, human being who is in his or her right sense wouldn't like to consume. And if you go to the chief's compound within the area, most of the reports or some of the ailments reports that they are having are attributed to the waterborne diseases.
Exactly my point. So how are you escalating then? You've sent letters, no response. There's supposed to be an upgrade of these transmission pipes because they have low capacity. How are you escalating the situation?
Yes, I think I made a formal complaint at the municipal level, and there is a particular project that is coming up known as Suku. That Suku project, the communities dotted along the Eastern Corridor, side of the Tamil North constituency stands a chance to benefit from that particular program. Well, the team or the regional distribution team of the Ghana Water Company, they did make a follow-up. They came and conducted a survey in the area just to have more details for the content of the applications that are submitted to their outfit, so that when the means or the funds are available to undertake that project, they can do what is meant for us, or what will solve the community or the area water crisis situation. They did a follow-up, they conducted the survey, but they are yet to really put it into practice.
All right. Fatal, you just said that some of the ailments that most people in the community are falling, getting sick because of the water that they're drinking. In the interim, what can you do? Could you distribute alum to some households just to help them clean up the water a bit before they drink? What measures, practical solutions can you do in the interim while you wait? As the assembly, member for that area, what can you do for them to ensure that at least they are not drinking this kind of water as dirty as we are seeing directly from the dam?
Yes. Thank you very much. We have, put up several measures, but my old people will say, the stick that is on that is available to a man, that is why he used to hunt the bird on the tree. Likewise, you did mention of the alum. I've done several, support with some of the community or women groups. We supply them some alums, so that they can, at least in one way or the other, uplift the quality of the water a bit, so that they can use it for domestic and other water-related usage. But my focus gets towards the Tire Chiefs compound that serves as a focal, or let me say, one of the, top-notch chips compound that serves not less than 5 or 6 communities along that particular route. For the past 2 months or 3 months, it's been a serious headache for me and the in charge, because women do come over there for delivery, and whenever these women come, they find it difficult to get water for the processes to ensure that these women are being delivered and are in good condition.
All right. Abdul Fattah,
Yes, please.
We do have to go, but I just want to chip in. Just my 2 cents on this matter. You are, in a way, a leader in that community. If you are also knocking on doors that are not opening for you, you can find other ways to make them listen to you and bring you the resources or the needed upgrade that you need. But thank you so much for the work that you're doing so far. Abdul Fattah Yaya is the assembly member for Taha Baumo electoral area in the Northern region. Martina Bugri also joined us from the Northern region. She brought us that report. Martina, thank you so much for spending part of your day with us.
You're welcome, Stacey.
Right. Before we go, quick announcement inviting you to escape to the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel. That is at Japa, Dubai. You have seen the rest. Now it's time to see the best. Take a break from work. Take a break from the south. The Royal Cozy Hills Hotel is the best place to relax, rewind, and re-energize. It is away from the stress of the south. And what awaits you when you go to Japa, Dubai? Unforgettable safari experience. That's an amazing array of wildlife, including lions, hippopotamus, zebras, ostriches, among others, using their spacious and well-secured game tour vehicles or quad bikes. 2, water sports such as jet skiing, boat canoe rides, etc. 3, various family games to keep you and your family excited, entertained all day long. 4, great tourist attractions in the Upper West region, like the Mushroom Rock, the Slave Cave, among others. So, escape from the south, escape to the north, escape to Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, that is at Jurapa, Dubai, for an unforgettable safari experience. You can call them on 050-169-4280 or 024-88-44463 for reservations and further inquiries. And that's how we're wrapping up for this belt of conversations. But coming up next, Loishola Adeyemi engages some first-time voters on what they want to see in political parties' manifestos on just turned 18. We'll be back with our report shortly. Stay with us.
And welcome to another beautiful episode of Just Turned 18 right here on Joy Prime. My name is Loishola Adeyemi and I am your host. Today is going to be a very, very interesting one because today we are back here at the University of Ghana to speak to first-time voters. Now, today we are looking into manifestos. What do these first-time voters understand when we say manifestos? Do they want new things in there? Have they even heard them? As the political parties are about to put them together, what do they want embedded in these manifestos? They are ready, ecstatic, and I cannot wait to talk to them. Let me say a very big thank you to our sponsors, Star Ghana Foundation, the Youth Bridge Foundation, Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, also Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, Petrosol, German Ozone Medical Center, and Shopbox Technologies for making this happen. All this wouldn't have been happening without our good sponsors. Now, as I said, we're about to speak to our first-time voters. We want to find out from these people, what do they want embedded in these manifestos? What do they want to see? Will these things influence them? What is written in the manifesto? Will it affect them in any way? Let's find out from them now. All right, guys, how are we doing? You guys, I say it's every episode that I like energy. So how are we doing? All right, so guys, we just ended the limited registration or limited voters registration, and I know that all of us have our cards. We do, right? All right, so let me quickly let's get into it. How was the experience? Let me come to you now, Dede.
It was very stressful because of the queue. Yeah.
So you would say yours was very stressful. Was the same for you, Eric?
No, please. I think our MP organized a bat for us to take her to the venue, and also you gave us some motivation and some food and other stuff.
Hey, Eric said there was free food, though. My dear, how was it for you?
Same for his. Okay. I also have free food. I went late, so I got breakfast and lunch as well. So it was really good.
So meaning those who were there throughout the day had breakfast, lunch, and supper? Yeah. Was that the same for you, Daniel?
Yes, I didn't really get because I wasn't interested in it. I know it's kind of a way to gain people, but the process was okay. Security was there. It's good.
All right. Let me find out from you, my dear. How was it for you as well?
It was not stressful at all. I went in the early days, so I just did my registration. When I went, there were like 7 people there. Because, you know, Ghanaians, we don't like doing things early. We want the last minute vibe. So I went early, I did my registration. Within 10 minutes, I was done. So it was not stressful at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because you went early, you had it well. You didn't do the Ghana time. What do we even say? Ghanaian time. You get there and then it's another thing altogether. Anyways, so it was good for all of us. And now we finally have our registration card. So now we get to a very, very interesting spot. I always like this place because I say we go back to the classroom. When was the last time you saw a slate? Probably in primary 1, but well, we're taking you back again. Behind you are your slates. Please pick them up and let's get going. Okay, beautiful. Now on these slates, I want to see, you already know what manifestos are. As I said, political parties tell us what they want to do for us, how they want to serve us through their manifestos. It is also through these manifestos that we decide if we will vote for party A or party B. Let's also not forget that we are very important, especially first-time voters. I have said it over and over again that our voices are very, very key when it comes to elections. So let's write on the board 3 things that we want embedded in this manifesto that will profit us. Let's see. Very, very fast. Let's go. So yes, this is still Just Turned 18, and as I said, today we are tackling manifestos. Let me use this opportunity to say a very big thank you to our sponsors, because we do not do this alone, and as we are speaking, they are writing on the boards the 3 things that are important to them that they want to see in the manifestos, because I've said it, that political parties are getting ready, they are gearing up to let us know the plans that they have for us when they come into power. So are we done? All right, so please, if you are done, please raise your boards for me. Let me see. Raise your, hey, the girls, you're letting the guys win. All right, okay. So I can see on the boards, some have good governance, good health, economy, quality education, economy, governance, quality health. I see accountability. I see quality health again. Oh, so I can see that quality health runs through a lot of the boards. Let me come straight to you, Nadede, once again. I see quality health.
Okay, so please, I want those who wants to be elected as president, they should tell us what they will do concerning health issues. We realize that there are less beds for patients, and then this is really leading to death. We realize that some hospitals don't have this generators and stuff, so whenever there's lights out, there's a higher record of death and stuff, so they should provide such things for them. And then moreover, we don't have some of the equipment they need here to work for those patients. So you see, they have to take them from here to another place. Sometimes it deals with ambulance, issues with ambulance. They don't get ambulance to transport them early in the years, and this results in death.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because of that, I see quality healthcare also on yours, Jennifer. So please explain to me, are you also agreeing with her? What exactly do you also want to see about quality health in the manifestos?
I also agree with her, because last month or so, a child died because of light problems, and I was thinking, if there was this plant, let's say even for the lights, there's a problem, as the ECG people are saying that it's a fault. So if there was to be plants, some generators that will help with everything, that child might not have died.
Okay. I also see good health on yours. Let me find out, what exactly are you also agreeing with them?
Yes, I think over the years, the government have done a lot when it comes to health. But then I feel they could do more. NHIS would only cover for some medicines and some conditions. I feel they should better it up to cover almost like 95, because the average Ghanaian cannot really afford these things, and then things are really weird.
Okay, so you are saying that from those who have written healthcare, they are saying that they want to see the fact that the national insurance card that we have will be able to work well. You also want to see that they will say, okay, we're providing these things, we're providing beds, we're providing more medicines, generators, plants, before you actually say that you would actually vote. If you do not see these things or hear these things in the manifestos, would that deter you from voting? Let me ask you, Nadede.
Yes, please.
You won't vote if you don't hear that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll come back again. But before that, I also see unemployment. I see good education. But I see good education as well. I see governance and I see economy. Because I see economy and inflation here, let me come to you and then I'll come back to you. Inflation. Yeah. What about inflation do you want to hear in the manifestos? And also, how sure are you that if you hear them in the manifestos, they'll come to fruition?
Yeah, that's my point. I want the parties to draft practical policies about inflation in their manifesto, especially about food inflation. Because as students, the money that we are supposed to depend on, because of food inflation, how it's been rising, we are not able to stay in budgets. We end up spending, and then at the end of 2 weeks, you have to ask additional money from our parents. So I would advise the parties to draft practical inflation policies that would bring down food prices, because food prices are very important for the average Ghanaian. Let's forget about the building materials and all of that, but practical policies about food inflation that will bring the prices of food down. Yeah, so that's my major concern.
Okay. Now, I'm seeing the same economy. Is it related to what you said?
Yes, it's kind of related, because I think over the years, Ghanaians have had a lot of hard times with the economy. Since inflation was up, some didn't get good jobs and all of that. And then I feel that when it comes to our money, our currency is devaluing against the dollar. So I feel the government should come up with more plans. So with the economy we are expecting, it is the main thing Ghanaians want to see, because that's what put money in our pockets.
All right. As youth, I see that he said economy is disturbing us, and he has also said inflation is really, really haunting us in this country. But I mean, there was a time that we heard that the dollar has gone down. Didn't it change things a little bit? Because I also heard it, that they said that the dollar has reduced. It has, you know, gone down. It didn't change anything for you?
The government or political parties tell us that they've put measures in place to stop the inflation, to arrest the dollar and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's not sustainable. We don't see it lasting for a longer period, because maybe they might do some menial things to calm things down. But in the long run, things will start shooting up again. So we are asking the political parties to draft policies that are sustainable, that are long-lasting, that can last us for 50 years. Our city will be calm for like a long period, and not just some, you know, short-term policies that will deceive us. Yeah.
Who is agreeing with him here? Let me see by hand anybody who agrees with what he's saying. Baby, you have to talk to me. Gifty, why are you agreeing with him? Explain.
I think I agree because, yes, if you bring out short-term policy, yes, for now we'll see that it has gone down. But then let's take it let's not look at now. Let's look quite into the future. Some years to come, it will shoot up again. It will definitely go up, and we will be the same people suffering from it again. So for now, we'll see that yes, it has come down, but then later on, we will suffer the effects again.
Aside the economy, has there been any other short-term thing that they have said that we've seen? Because I heard they have said that there have been short-term policies that didn't work for us. So I want to know, is there any other short-term policy that you think that the last party or probably subsequent years they told us they would do and they haven't done, and it has fallen short?
I want to talk about the DUMSO, because yes, it's a very important issue. You know, the previous governments and this current government, they made promises about solving the DUMSO crisis, and then at the end of the day, you still see it coming back again, and it's even worse. And so these are some of the short term. It's like they try to convince us that they are doing this and this and that, and they even sometimes you even hear the government saying that, oh, it's because of the transformer and all of that we are fixing it. But at the end of the day, there is still the DUMSO is still there, and they end up giving it different terms and names to deceive us. And so we want policies that are sustainable, like about the crisis we are facing.
I get that, but you see, even though you say it's DUMSO, we've also heard from ACG that it is not DUMSO. It's just the fault in the system. It's not that it's DUMSO. There's something that has changed. Is that you guys don't believe that there's a problem? You don't believe? Why don't you believe?
Because it's, if they are saying it's a fault, they didn't even say it's just in Ghana. They said it's almost in all the African countries. We know Nigeria they have that problem for a long time. But the way they just give us a timetable to know, or maybe this time will get lighted. They are not giving. They are just saying it's fault. If it's a fault, give us some problem, solution to the problem, so we know, oh, this one there. Meaning it's not a fault. It's something I feel they are deliberately doing.
Wow. So you think that the DUMSO is deliberate? Do you also believe that I've made you rest a lot, so that when I come to you, you can give me a lot of things? So do you also agree?
Yes, please. I think the DUMSO is a deliberate action. You know, over the years, the major cause of DUMSO is when the dams subsides in the water levels. But right now, even there is a spillage, and we are still experiencing the DUMSO. So I think this is a deliberate action, and then the government should do something to rectify that. Thank you.
All right. Before I come back again, let me find out, are there any more short-term policies that you think is short-term that probably subsequent years they had passed? Because you guys have said it so many times that there have been a number of short-term policies not sustainable. So any other one aside the DUMSO? Any other one?
One village, one dam.
Let me come to Eric.
One village, one dam.
What about that don't you believe, and why do you think it's short-term?
I've not heard any dam.
But the fact that you've not seen and heard doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Have you made your research? Have you heard anywhere?
The policy was to build each village to have one dam. And up to date, even myself, I've not seen. Even when I've been watching news and I've been listening to news and other stuff, I've not heard of any village or any dam so far.
Okay, let me come to you.
And about the one factory, one something. It started well. We saw the government bringing about these factories, which was going on. But now we don't see them, and even these factories, they've sacked most of the workers, and it's not even working. When you go there, it's always bushes and everything there.
All right, Nade, is it true? Is that the same for you? Because I see you nodding your head.
Yes, please.
All right, so that's all you want to say. Explain further.
Okay, so me for the one district, one factory, the only thing I remember seeing was a pineapple factory. And then I was expecting a factory in my district too. But I didn't see anything like that.
Okay, all right. So, okay, let's move away from that. We've all agreed that probably there are short-term, policies that were there. I see on boards again, aside... Hello and welcome to another...
Welcome back from that riveting conversation with Lois Shola Adeyemi on Just Turned 18. And Benjamin, some of the young ones were saying they think Doomsaw is deliberate.
Deliberate? I don't know. I don't know how that is possible. Right. But we're just going to talk about the Impact Makers Awards. It's coming off on the 29th day of this month at the Accra International Conference Center. And it's going to be pretty interesting. We did a wonderful job last year. And this year we're back with more on that. You just want to stay with us. And yeah, you see them there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All 10 of them actually vying for this. So just don't you forget, make a date with us. 29th June 2024 from 7 p.m. It'll go for about 2 hours at the Accra International Conference Center. Join us. And let's celebrate those making an impact in Ghana. And here's one of them. Sweetie Abochi.
Yes, I'm an impact maker.
You're a Joy News impact maker.
I make impact through Girl Get Up Africa. And I'll tell you all about it in the course of the week. But right now, we have to go.
We do have to go. Thank you for your company this morning. On the stroke of the hour, we'll bring you Joy News Desk. But from Benjamin Akakpo and
Sweetie Abochi,
we wish you a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you.